Hey, what's up, Sifters? Welcome to GameFace, episode 341 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, the founder of Sifted, and your host for this awesome podcast about video games. Alongside me to do that is Matt Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Jedi business.
Yeah, serious Jedi business going on. I've been living the life of the Jedi, it feels like, for the entire last 4 or 5 days. And we're going to get to that. One of our first topic today, as you might guess, is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. We're also going to talk about Redfall today. We have a big show for you guys with big games. That's 2 weeks in a row. But before we get going, I do have some housekeeping that may put a little bit of curveball in the next week or two. So I mentioned last week, and now I'm bringing it up again because it's here, that next Tuesday, a week from this moment right now, I will be having surgery. So I will be incapacitated for at least a couple days. The doctor is saying maybe 2 weeks. I don't believe that. I have a really high tolerance for pain, and I'm a quick healer. They're saying it could take 2 weeks for me to recover.
As doesn't screw your knee up.
Yeah, well, they're not touching my knee. I actually would prefer if they were touching my knee, Matt, compared to what I'm going to have done. I'm not going to go into any details. But anyway, I do have my surgery, my procedure next Tuesday. So here's what I'm going to say. Right now, I really have no idea when we're going to do the next Game Face. I'm just being honest with you. And we may try to do it Monday if Matt and I have played enough stuff to get in a show before I start my recovery and everything. If we don't, I can't really tell you. So what I am going to say is you should follow Sifted on Twitter at Sifted Games, and that's where we'll announce anything. If you're someone who's on our site every day, you'll know. I'll message that all over the site. But for those of you who don't go to the site, and you're making a mistake if you don't, those of you who don't go to the site, just keep an eye on our Twitter, and we'll let you know. And it really does suck. The timing is so terrible because Zelda is coming out. But unfortunately, this was like the only week that I could get, and I had to wait. I had made this appointment like last November, Matt.
Yeah, no, if you get an appointment in L.A., you take that medical appointment because it takes forever.
And if I didn't take now, it would just be later on.
You didn't know the release date of Zelda when you made the appointment.
I did not.
What can you do?
Yeah. So anyway, it's just a bad coincidence, bad circumstance. We'll see how it goes. But again, just follow us on Twitter at Sifted Games, and we'll keep you in the loop on everything that's going on there. Matt, how was your week besides full of Jedi-ness?
I mean, pretty much just full of Jedi-ness.
That's not a bad week, usually.
No, I had Thursday, Friday were not amazing. I had some allergy issues because the weather is nice now, which means all the plants are like,
everything's blooming.
Oh my God, it's super bloom, and my throat's just like, fuck you. Like, so, but I was like, that's settled down now. I'm just sort of like generally up in the sinuses, but I'm like, that's going to last a couple months. That's just how it is, right? There's so much rain, most rain in what? 30-some years.
Like ever.
So yeah, it's going to be beautiful, but my nose is not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, my allergies since I've moved here have been like zero. On the East Coast, I had to take an allergy pill every day for like 4 or 5 months straight.
Mine are much better here than they were in the Bay Area, but like every once in a while, like something will get, and like this year, like the grasses are real horny. The pollen is everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's going to be rough.
Yep.
But I mean, look, I'm used to it, but it's just every once in a while, it's just like...
Yeah, I'm excited.
Luckily, I just sat on the couch and played Jedi Survivor
and went to some
the whole
planet
time.
that you'll never visit instead. Yeah.
Although those, I'd like to go to Jeddah. I bet there's not a lot of pollen on Jeddah. I just feel like there's probably...
Probably not. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. What else have we got for you guys? We got a bunch of housekeeping, but not as much as we've had the last few weeks. Not as many smaller stories from this week. The first one was we finally got to see gameplay of Armored Core 6, Matt. What did you think of what they showed?
Looks good. It's nice to see Armored Core done up in that kind of graphical fidelity, just in general.
Yeah.
You can see a little bit of Dark Souls in the blocking. Is
but not
there.
really though.
That stuff is not in the others though. It's like adding a little bit more defense to it is an interesting twist.
They've tweaked it a little bit.
Like obviously, it's not going to play. Like Dark Souls, but like I thought it was interesting that there's a more defensive angle now, which has been a big element of the Souls games and their other games. Like you can play that a little more back, whereas like the old Armored Core was like kill. You have to move fast. The old reverse grip on the controller, which I saw some people talking about on Twitter this week. That like the younger kids were like, the what? And like where you hold the controller basically facing backwards, so your fingers can touch all the buttons at once because the unalterable control scheme on the Armored Core 1 and the PS1 games and Armored Core 2 didn't use the sticks. So to move the camera up and down was L2 and R2. And to strafe was L1 and R1, and the buttons are all the various attacking things, and then you had to move with the D-pad, and the sticks did nothing. And like to do all that at once in the higher levels, you had to basically flip the controller around so all your fingers could touch all that all at the same time. And it's like the Monster Hunter claw, you know. And like you show that to people now, and they're like, the
yeah,
what?
I don't see most From Software fans flipping the controller up. Well, maybe they will actually.
You never know. Like the From fans are dedicated. I don't think you'll need to do it in this because you have analog sticks functioning.
Yeah.
But the flip around is the reverse grip. Look that up. Look up the Armored Core reverse grip. It's wild. There's people that still play it that way.
The one thing I picked up on in this trailer is that it's not a typical From Software game. It is an Armored Core game.
Armored Core. It's absolutely.
And I do wonder if From's fans are going to.
But you can see like there's a little more melee action than a normal Armored Core.
And you know why they put that in there.
Yeah, you're gonna have some Souls people that are just like, oh, From. One of the articles I saw from some stupid site I'd never heard of. I don't remember what it was, like The Gamer or something. One of those generic names you've never. You see like one review from and never see again.
Yeah,
it was like From Software made a mech game, and I'm like, do you notice that there's a 6 at the end of that, and that it's actually like the 20th Armored Core game or something? Like this is not new, guys. Like those of us who are like, wow, From Software made a medieval fantasy game.
Yeah, exactly. The people who actually know From Software from all the decades prior.
Yeah, I do like Armored Core. I used to play it, all of them.
I mean, I think a lot of people just think that like the first game they ever made was Demon Souls.
Yeah, that seems to be. Even though, like, even back then, people were like, dude, this is just like a really advanced version of Kingsfield. Like, they've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
They had two things. They had Kingsfield and they had Armored Core, and they focused on Armored Core for a long time because they found a niche there. Mm-hmm. I don't think those games were ever super mega hits or anything.
Yeah.
But, like, they did well enough for what they cost to make.
Yeah.
And some of them were great, and some of them are not.
I'm interested to see the response to this game from the fans of From Software.
I mean, from what I've seen, like a lot of people, most of the people in the know do know the deal, but I am sure there will be a wave of Souls people that don't really pay attention to anything other than Souls, and maybe are like, oh, this isn't Souls with robots kind of thing, you know?
Because let's be honest, there's a lot of fanboys of From Software, and it'll be interesting to watch them try to navigate those choppy waters of, this isn't what I like From Software for, but it's From Software, so I have to like it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing. Also, it depends. Like, I mean, Armored Core has varied wildly in quality. I'm a little surprised. Like, I wonder if we might get like collections or something because they're so hard to get now. Like, they're very hard to find. Mm-hmm. Some of them are not worth playing again. I would say the best one is For Answer, which I think was Armored Core 3 or 4.
That PS2, I think.
I think it was one more up, but I'm not sure. The last one was Armored Core 5 Victory or something like that.
That was PlayStation 3.
Yeah, that was PS3. Yeah. I think it was. Yeah, it might have been PS2. For Answer is the best one, I think.
I think that's PS2 if I remember correctly.
I want to say that was a spin-off of Armored Core 3, but it might have been because 4 was also on the 360 and the PS3, I think.
Yeah.
It was weird. What a weird...
An awakening day is coming for the From Software fans.
I have all those games except like the weird PSP one or whatever. And I can't remember. I don't think I've ever even opened Armored Core, the 5.
I've only played 2 Armored Core games before. So
yeah, I played all of them except the last one. Like I played 5.
I know exactly what they are,
but I didn't play 5... Whatever, 5 Victory, 5...
They're also not easy, by the way. No, so if that's one thing you like about From Software games, you're probably going to get a challenge.
Although I will say, For Answer is probably the easiest one.
Which is why most people liked it the most.
So if you're like, I want to play an Armored Core game, like, go find For Answer. Armored Core 4. Oh yeah, 4, because it's 4.
For Answer.
Yeah, because that's...
That makes too much sense.
Yeah. I really like that one. If you want to go real old school... and want to get your ass kicked, go play Armored Core 9 Breaker.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's coming out this year.
Yep.
Which
August.
I drafted it in my 10th pick, I think, just on a whim. It could actually review pretty low. That's the funny part.
Know. It's going to be very interesting. Like Armored, I mean, look, because like looking at what that trailer, it still looks like Armored Core, and it still looks like it's going to be. I mean, Armored Core is, if you love it, you love it. But if you don't, it's not going to win you over. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice.
I am trending towards having all 10 of my games be released.
Yeah,
my fantasy team.
I don't think I am.
You are. It's dicey whether you're going to need an alternate.
I definitely lost Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
and there's a question about probably Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's in our...
Yeah.
It's in our open.
Although some comments later made me feel better about that.
Okay. So. Next up, if you're a fan of Titanfall, or Titanfall 2, which you should be, Titanfall 2, an amazing game, an amazing shooter that sold horribly. Well, Respawn is in the news right now because obviously we're all playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It's excellent Star Wars game. And so Vince Zampella is being interviewed, and just off the cuff, somebody brought up Titanfall 3, long rumored to be in development. It's not. It's not in development at all. That was what we really learned from that quote. Now
Titanfall seems to have been...
It looks like it's done.
Yeah. And it's a shame because Titanfall 2 is probably the best shooter campaign of the last, 15 years.
It really is that good. And if you guys have not played it yet, go buy it for $5 or $10.
Yeah, it's on sale now. It goes for $5.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can see the B-roll right now. It doesn't look dated still. It still looks like a game that could come out tomorrow. So if you haven't played Titanfall 2, highly recommend it.
And some of the stuff that goes on in it and the thing, you don't know where that story's going.
Yeah.
I promise. It's real good.
Yep. Both Matt and I both love it. So we highly recommend it, but it looks like we're not getting a Titanfall 3. He did say that, we think about it, we'd like to do it, but ultimately you're going to have to convince EA to do it. And that's a hard sell with the way the last game sold.
Sure.
So.
Well, and also because, shooters aren't really breakouts anymore.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Even if you do have a really good campaign or something, or compelling element, you're not going to break out of the shooter mold with it. You're not going to get an audience beyond that.
Yeah, we'll talk about another game here in a little bit that's trying to break out of the mold and is struggling a little bit. So anyway, chances of Titanfall 3 are pretty much zero at this point. So if you've been pining for that game, you might want to find a new target to thirst over.
Although he did say that team is working on a new IP.
That's true.
And so something's coming.
Yeah.
That's good news.
It's just not going to be Titanfall 3, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad because I do love giant robots, but I'm sure those guys have some new cool idea up their sleeve. They always do.
Yep. Next up, so we just mentioned it, teased it a little bit, Spider-Man 2. PlayStation announced this week that Marvel Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac is scheduled to come out this fiscal year, which sent up some red flags because the fiscal year runs until March of next year, so people are like, maybe it doesn't make it in 2023. What did you say were the updates that they provided?
There were some people who should know that were basically saying, you'll be playing it this year.
Okay.
So
when you say people who should know, were developers in Insomniac? Or?
Not developers, but people who claim to have talked to them.
Okay.
The target seems to be this year. Before Christmas.
Okay. So it sounds like March or whatever would be worst case scenario. They just can't get it done in time.
It sounds like I think people are reading too much into it because they said fiscal because it was a financial call, and the financial, the investors don't care when Spider-Man comes out. They care that it's coming out this year because that means they will have that benefit in those dividends by the end of this tax period.
Right.
What, they don't care whether it comes out in October or March. They care whether it comes out before their next rollover, basically. Yeah. So they don't need to be specific about that.
Right.
We're not talking about Warner Brothers here where they're accidentally going to announce Mortal Kombat 12 talking to the investors. Sony knows how to do that meeting. So I wouldn't read too much into that.
I wouldn't either. Insomniac never delays games. It almost always hits its release targets.
Sometimes they release them early.
Yeah.
It's so you know what? We're going to put this out 3 weeks earlier than we thought. Why not?
Yeah. So if you're sweating this not coming out this year, I wouldn't.
I'm not worried about it.
I think you're probably going to be okay. I would agree with that as well.
If we get to Starfield's release date and we still don't know when Spider-Man's coming out, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think the next day to play we will see more Spider-Man because we haven't seen any more than that.
That teaser that we showed you is all we have.
That's it.
It's literally 15 seconds long. I mean, this coming out party is coming real soon, and I'm very excited for that as someone who really enjoyed the first one. So anyway,
we've talked about how Starfield's my most anticipated game because I have so many questions about it. But I will be shocked if I don't like
enjoy Spider-Man more
better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, Spider-Man 2 is such a known quantity because of how Insomniac is. It's just I'm not even worried about Spider-Man 2.
Me either.
Come on.
Yep. Just worried about when I'm going to get to play it, and that's pretty much it. Yesterday, we got to see the first trailer of the Twisted Metal TV show. Now, we can't show you the trailer, unfortunately, because, as I say, every movie, every TV show, if we show you trailers of that stuff, we get beaten up on YouTube with copyright strikes. So we can never show you trailers for it. Did you watch it, Matt?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I do not understand why anyone is making a Twisted Metal show.
So the first season...
It's no Last of Us.
No. Sure. The first season debuts on July 17th on Peacock, which is a streaming service. The first season has 10 30-minute episodes. So, wow, that's a lot of Twisted Metal.
You want me to spend 5 hours of my life on this, huh? Okay.
It is about this guy who just travels across the country on a road trip, basically. That's what it seems like. It's just a road trip movie with the characters from the game as his nemesis trying to stop him from driving across the country. It looks pretty bad. Who knows on this grand scale of video game TV shows where it will fall, but it doesn't look great.
I mean, how many video game TV shows have there been?
Yeah.
Especially if you cut out animated.
Yeah, you're right. Not a ton, as far as live action is concerned.
It's nothing to hear as a property. I don't know why you look through all of Sony's IP and think that's the one.
Maybe it's the one that could get the cheapest.
Maybe, but it can't be the one that was going to be cost the least to produce.
Yeah.
Like this. I mean,
it looked like it has a decent budget.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they cheaped on it. It just looks dumb because it's Twisted Metal.
Paramount trying to become sort of the streaming home for video game TV shows after Halo and now this.
Yeah.
If it's Halo's quality. Uh-oh. So we'll see. But again, it launches on...
I don't need a show where Sweet Tooth fucks.
Yeah,
like,
I mean...
it didn't help Halo, and it's not going to help this. I don't...
Yeah, I mean, you also didn't really exactly see a lot of public outcry for this. It's not like Twisted Metal has a really strong...
No, and there's no, like, synergy to it. It's not like they're putting out another Twisted Metal or anything.
Because the last one they put out was a miserable failure.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It's really bizarre. Next up... Honkai Star Rail. Some of you guys are probably thirsty for that game. It just came out. I wanted to play it before today to get it in today's show. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So, look, we do understand that Honkai Star Rail is on the cusp of becoming this big thing. These Asian free-to-play RPGs, just for whatever reason, people just keep jumping on them.
Because they're free.
I mean, but there's lots of free games out there.
Yeah, but these things like present themselves like full blown like full single player games, basically.
They look like games you would pay for in a lot of cases. But anyway, I think they had 20 million signups in the first week.
I mean, it's the Genshin Impact, people.
It's
like you're going to get some bleed over no matter what.
It's pretty crazy. So anyway, I don't want you to think we're ignoring it. We will talk about it in next week's show or whenever we do our next episode of GameFace. But I just didn't have time to get to it. And then a final piece of housekeeping. This was the biggest surprise to me of the entire week. Is that Alan Wake 2 is absolutely coming out this year.
Yeah, it's surprising.
I was like, what?
It really felt like this was years away.
Yeah. They said all along it was coming in 2023. And we just were like, no way. We just blew it off and like, you're crazy. There's no way it's going to. And it is. It's actually absolutely happening. Also, Remedy said that the Max Payne remake and Control 2 are just getting out of pre-production and are about to go into full production. So both of those games are well on their way for delivery. But this is the one that's closest and probably the one that, in all honesty, draws the most interest of those three, I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, Control 2 has got some cachet, but people have been curious about this forever.
Yeah, and as of right now, it looks like it's coming in Q4, so we'll have another big game.
He looks uncomfortably like Jared Leto.
He really does.
I'm just like,
I mean, sometimes I just assume it is him.
Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know.
He could probably sue them for using his likeness.
He is in it, and we just
we just don't know. Yeah.
I mean, the man did dress up as a cat yesterday.
Yeah, that's true.
You never know. Jared's up for anything.
Yeah. So anyway, there is the housekeeping for episode 341. Let's check out you guys and see what y'all are up to before we get going into the show proper. Peacock is NBC. I know that. Yeah. I think everybody knows that. Darmis, thank you for Twitch Prime. Appreciate it. Luna is here. That's right. She makes her appearance at the beginning of the show and then she disappears.
Yeah. Thankfully for you can't smell her.
Yeah.
She likes to use the litter box right before she comes in for the show. And it's just like, and she sits with her butt facing me. So I'm just like, oh, great.
No one's complained about the lack of smell-o-vision so far.
No, definitely don't.
One Super Master Gamer, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Mike's Q, thank you for Twitch Prime, and he has a question. Did you see that Tears of the Kingdom leaked early and the frame rate is hardware locked to 20 frames? But I did not see that.
Woof.
I did not. By the way, anyone in chat who puts any spoilers in our chat for Tears of the Kingdom, you're going to get banned. So if you think you're funny, you think you're cool, even if you're making up stuff, don't put it in there. Don't put any of the spoilers for the game.
Especially because anything you make up is probably going to be better than what's in the game.
Yeah, we will ban you if you put any spoilers for the game in our chat. That's just the way it is. We protect our users here. So I did not hear that the hardware was locked to 20 frames per second because I ignored and tried to avoid all the spoilers. And that is really disappointing to hear.
Yep.
but not surprising.
Not surprising,
in
no.
the least.
Like-
I mean, the last game, it dipped to 20 all the time.
Yeah.
And if they're trying to make it better, make it look better, and be, a better looking game in general, it's going to slow down the frame rate. So I'm not that surprised, but I am disappointed. It's on Game Pass too. I'm not sure what Vincent's talking about there. Definitely not Spider-Man, that's for sure. Armored Core? Is Armored Core on Game Pass?
I don't know.
Chromehound's greater than Armored Core.
Answer. Maybe For Answer is on PlayStation Now or something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Chromehound's greater than Armored Core.
That's a tough comparison.
They're not. They're the same, but they're not.
Yeah. Very different games.
I did play a lot of Chromehounds though back in the day when it came out.
Chromehounds was good.
Its network stuff was really interesting and really
revolutionary for the time.
It really was. Yep. Toast9, thank you for Twitch Prime, 26 months. I appreciate it. We need it. AJ the Legend Watson, thank you. Get Up Kid 1284, thank you. MHG and Morton Joe, thank you for subbing to Sifted Games on Twitch. AJ the Legend Watson, thank you for gifting tier 1 subs to people who showed up. El Guapo, thank you for the kind words for my recovery. I really appreciate that. I just want you guys to know this isn't like a life or death situation here. Like, I think maybe like 1/100th of 1% of people ever die from what I'm about to have done. So don't worry that I'm going to in any danger of passing away or anything, unless something crazy happens.
That would have to be a pretty big error.
It really would be, and I would be rich. And then GameFace,
like maybe if a truck drives to the OR or something, that would be.
Yep, I would be rich, and Sifted would turn into a juggernaut overnight, but not worth it. Still not worth it. Erebus Jones and J Reed Vic 7, thank you for Twitch Prime. You guys are awesome. The Big Smoke 82, thank you. And I think that's it. Ultimate Villain, thank you for Twitch Prime. And the Wampler 13. And that's it. Okay. I think we're just about ready, Matt. This is going to be an awesome episode of GameFace. We have 2 amazing games right off the top, and the rest of the topics in this show are great too. But before we get to that, it's time to hear a word from...
Titanfall 2 is on Game Pass. That's
gotcha. Okay.
And Plus.
Okay. Before we get to that, though, it's time to hear a word from our awesome sponsor. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com. That's creamls.com. One thing I forget to say, and I have not said since our sponsorship started with LS Cream, is that all those drinks that you see in the ad, you can go to creamls.com and the recipes for those drinks are there. So I always watch that ad and I get thirsty watching it. But if you really want to make those drinks, you absolutely can. Go to creamls.com. There's not just that there. You can learn about the product. This is a recipe from his family called Cray Mass. He had to teach me how to say that. I did not know how. But anyway, this is an ancestral recipe that comes from his family. It's way better than Bailey's. Go to creamls.com. There's a store locator there. You can find out how to buy it. Buy it. Use the recipes. Make some awesome drinks. And watch GameFace while you're drinking them. Okay. And with that, it is time to kick off GameFace 341 proper. We're going to kick things off with undoubtedly the biggest release of the week, and that is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Before we get going, though, Matt, you have something very special that you want to share with everybody, right?
Oh, yeah. I forgot I ordered this, but it's the collector's edition of Jedi Survivor. I got to watch out because Luna left a little butt residue there.
You don't want to ruin the box.
Just did that and left.
That's how they roll. So Matt got is this $300? Is that right?
It's $300. I have to look it up. I forgot I ordered this, and all of a sudden, like last week, it's like, shipped now. It's a limited run games things. Like, it just shipped, and I'm like, All right. Yeah, did I do that? That sounds like me. That sounds like something I would have done. Because normally I don't care about the limited edition stuff because I don't need any more statues of garbage. But, like, this comes with a lightsaber.
And not just a lightsaber. That thing weighs probably 8 pounds.
Oh, yeah. It's a real heavy one.
It's no joke.
It's not... Unfortunately, yesterday they announced they're putting out a bigger one with the full extra handle and double blade as part of the Star Wars month celebration. So I'm gonna have to get that too. But I didn't know about that one. That didn't exist yet when we did this. And then under here is the game and a metal case.
And your certificate of authenticity.
Certificate, right? Yeah, it's like number 4,000 something out of 5,000. Apparently, I barely got in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hefty boy, and.
So the saber part didn't come with it, right?
No, the blade I already had from. Of course, they did. So. Oh.
Is it not working?
Nah, it's just not. I unscrewed it by accident a little bit there. There we go.
There we go. So they're making these lightsaber handles now that just fit the de facto blades.
Yeah, they're all standard now. So like
that was smart.
So there's these are the standard ones you get at Disneyland, and then there's like the Elite FX ones, which are like special. Those are the highest end ones. Those each come with a specific blade for their saber, which is the length of the blade for that particular saber.
Oh.
And they've even started labeling them now. They say like Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi on the side of the blade because they all come out. So although I got like 10 like loose blades like laid up against the corner of the wall, and you can't tell which one's which. Unless they have names on them. So I actually got to take the ones that don't have the names and write the names in like silver Sharpie on them.
Wow.
So I know which ones they are because there's too many. But this is one of the standard length blades you get from...
Oh, it even makes a noise when you take the blade out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty sweet, dude.
So, yeah.
And what kind of gas is in that tube that makes it go up the tube as it lights up?
It's an LED.
Oh, it's just an LED.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a progressively lit strip.
Oh, it's a strip in there. And they just fog the... Oh, now I can see it. Interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool. And they fog it so you can't see the LEDs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty sweet. So $300. It can be yours. Was it worth it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a good version of this. It's better than the one they had before, which had the ripped up bottom, which I didn't like.
Yeah.
So this is like his fixed version. Unfortunately, the new one coming like next week is better. It's the big version. It has the double saber. It comes the other blade comes out of the bottom. It looks like it might separate. It's hard to tell. And it changes color. It has like 5 different colors.
Oh, wow.
So you can customize it the way you do in the game.
As we say on here, or at least we've been saying it a lot lately, if you want to buy game stuff that will increase in value, it's not games anymore, people. It's stuff like this. It's limited edition stuff for games. It's limited edition consoles like the new Zelda Switch OLED. If you buy that and keep it unopened, that'll increase in value a lot over time. Stuff like this increases in value a lot over time. It's not really buying games anymore, unfortunately. So just something to keep in mind. But now, Matt, it's time to talk about the game proper. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the follow-up to Respawn's excellent Metroidvania from only just 3 years ago. We don't get sequels this quick anymore. It's very rare that we get stuff this fast.
Which might explain why it came in so hot.
Yeah.
Like it's...
150 gigs of Star Wars, Matt.
Which I think will slowly reduce.
Yeah, as they
time.
compress the textures and all that other stuff. They learn to use the Kraken.
But it's like 150 gigs install on like, I think PS5 and Series X, and on like Series S, it's 44.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some uncompressed stuff happening
absolutely. So we should probably approach this at first as if somebody did not play the first game. The first game did sell pretty well. I think this one's
very well.
Yeah, this one's probably going to sell better, I would imagine.
Probably a little bit. Certainly faster.
Yeah,
I think.
But this game picks up 5 years after the first game.
So this is.
We'll let Matt, you do the synopsis, because you're doing a way better job than I ever will.
This is 14 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So 14 years after Order 66. It was 9 years, I think, after the previous. And so Cal is like... I'll say Cal is like 24 in this.
Yeah.
Or so. Like he's mid-20s. So he's a little older, a little filled out a little bit. Doesn't quite look as...
He looks like an adult now instead of a kid.
Goofy. Yeah. He can grow a beard.
Yeah. And you can unlock 20 different beards that you'll never...
You got to go through a lot of trouble to actually figure out how to grow a mustache, weirdly. But yeah, it's...
Yeah, a lot of the unlocks you come across in this game are cosmetics.
Yeah. I mean, they were in the first one, too. But
yeah.
more
Which I am not a fan of, I'll just admit. But
I like it okay. Like I like when I find new clothes I like, and like a lot of the customization stuff has expanded a lot, but a lot of it I don't want to make BD1 look different. Really.
He's actually I keep Cal kind of the same. I only change his outfit I think twice. BD, I actually do like swap in and out like parts for him.
I've kept him pretty I paint him, but I'm pretty much the same. I have messed with Cal's outfit a lot to find something, because the problem is like I like capes and the robes and things, and he doesn't really get those. And as a matter of fact, at one point,
the capes, the stuff clips through the capes.
And the capes aren't very long, and he hasn't. I found like Jedi robes that are just sort of the inner robe. Like
that's what I'm wearing now.
Having him wear that.
Yeah, that's what I'm wearing too.
I had him wear like the hunter outfit for a while, like the little commander outfit, that little tiny cape, little Lando cape, but like none of it's really very satisfying to me in that regard. And as a matter of fact, at some point in the game, someone says something about like you're like, oh, it's like one of the High Republic droid is like, you're not wearing the standard issue Jedi robes, and he's like, more of a poncho guy. I'm like, I know, dude, we don't like the ponchos.
There's a little joke there, I think, from Respawn, because people complain. I still don't care about the cosmetics. I don't like that they're pretty much the only thing you ever stumble across. Like after a while, I got tired of like opening up the crates, because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get another beard or another colorway.
I like that stuff. Because I like the Jedi I like the saber customization stuff more, and I like the blaster customization. And I mess around with his clothes, but I don't really mess around with his face much.
I haven't touched his face.
Nothing really improves Cal's face.
No. I'm just going to say off the top, I think he's a terrible character. I have no affinity towards Cal at all. Like, I just don't care about him. I don't know what it is, but he's just not interesting to me. He just feels like this boring, blank slate of a person. Now, they do try to, like, impart emotion into the character in the game, and I think they do a decent job of trying, but there's just something about him I just don't care.
No, I like him in this more than the first one.
I'd agree with that, for sure. He's better.
And I think a lot of Cal's, appeal's not the right word, but like his relationship with BD1 and his treatment of droids as real people goes a long way with me, because
I'd agree.
That's something that I always think is interesting about Star Wars that they kind of refuse to explore, is the fact that like
it's their pets, basically.
No, it's a sentient slave race.
No.
Is what droids are. Like, a BD1 is like a dog, obviously. There's like like that kind of thing. But like these are real thinking creatures that clearly have.
I think they've done a good job with that in a lot of the Disney stuff too that's been on Disney Plus.
Sort of, but
humanizing the droids.
Oh, humanizing them for sure. But it's like in Andor, that one droid who like mourns for that one character when they die.
Yeah,
I'm like, how do you have this scene and still have scenes of them being like disintegrated and like at some point Star Wars has to address the fact that the main character of the original trilogy had two slaves.
Yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to. Like, but they are machines. So, but with AI now, the lines are getting blurred for sure.
Well, I think you have in the Star Wars universe, I think you have a very kind of solid out there, which is like in a universe where the Force exists, surrounded by and created by all living things. It would actually make some sense to consider a droid, which does not have any connection to the Force, to be definitively a non-living thing.
Right.
But then you get into questions about like what defines consciousness or whatever. But like Star Wars seems to have, as a society, decided already that droids don't count.
Yeah, they're not sentient, and they.
And it's like you can say, oh well, the Force kind of fell out of favor in the Imperial era. Yeah, but the Imperials were also enslaving like other aliens that weren't human. So it's like clearly the Empire doesn't care about consistency there. It's a fascist like galactic like dictatorship. But there's something to be explored there, and I always wonder if the makers of Star Wars will ever have the balls to try it.
Yeah, probably not.
But I like when you see little glimpses of characters like Cal who treat the droids as just as real as the other characters in the game. Like, I love that every time he meets a new person in this game, he introduces himself and BD1.
He does, yeah.
Like, I really... And so...
Well, actually, most people he runs into are like, BD1! Yeah. They're more excited to see the droid than they are him.
Oh, no, who can blame him? I mean, everyone... when the original crew gets back together, everyone's like, it's like, BD1! And then he's like jumping around, and everyone's like, oh, hey, Cal.
Yeah.
The other thing with
I feel the same way, I'll be honest with you. I like BD1 a lot more than Cal.
I don't disagree that Cal is not a tremendously compelling character, but I do think there's an improvement here, and I kind of understand his journey better here. Like, it's something I can identify with a little more on this. The supporting cast definitely takes you a long way. Marin's great in this. I'm glad she gets a lot more screen time than the first game, and you get to see more about her. Some of the new characters are great. The impenetrably Scottish fishing banana slug in the deep sea diving suit is amazing. Like, there's a bunch of cool stuff in there. And as we've talked,
Cal is probably my least favorite character in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the villains less, but like just because they're only on screen for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like the main villain is just an obnoxious twit, but it's supposed to be. I mean, obviously, you don't have to.
You're supposed to hate him.
Yeah. You don't spend a lot of time with him.
Yep.
But like, it's cool. Like, I will say the other thing, you probably maybe don't know what this is, but as a Californian, one of the problems with Cal is that the name Cal just makes me think of Cal Worthington, who was a used car lot owner in Southern California who ran commercials all up and down the state when I was growing up for like, here's Cal Worthington and his dog Spot. And it's like,
really?
If you go on a better car.
I am not aware of him at all.
If you want to get a truck, go see Cal. Like, it just, I mean, it's in my head forever. So when I see him, it's like, here's Cal Kestis and his droid Spot. Like that's the only thing I think. If you want to use the Force, go see Cal. Like, it's like. Go look on YouTube. Look up Cal Worthington and watch those commercials, because those played every fucking commercial break
like
in the afternoon.
Better Call Saul.
Yes, exactly. I guarantee you, Better Call Saul is a part
Rip
reference
some of
to
that.
him.
Yeah.
And because Cal Worthington and his dog Spot, every commercial would be his dog Spot, but the dog Spot was another exotic, like a lion or a kangaroo.
Well, he even did the really terrible commercials. Like,
exactly. Yeah. That's a reference to. I guarantee
sure.
you. If you grew up in California in the 70s and 80s, you saw Cal Worthington every single commercial break, and that's all I think about with it. Because I'm like, if I was working on this game, I would not have been able to resist like a little Easter egg where there's a little ad like with the Cal Worthington song, but it's Cal trying to get like younglings to come train with him as Jedi. Like that would be the thing, or selling speeders or something.
Yeah.
Like it's right there. That's a thing, very regional thing. I'm sorry. It's like, when you tell stories about Amish stuff.
Yeah. Which I don't do all that often, but.
No. But basically,
let's get back to the story.
It's 5 years later, and Cal, the crew is broken up. Cal is running the Mantis, the ship from the first one, and he is basically tormenting the Empire as best he can with various crews. And you pick up with him having been captured and being brought to a senator from Utapau. Because obviously Imperials are hunting Jedi, and the senator thinks he can turn Cal into the Empire and get brownie points. And it turns out that it's all set up, and the people who captured Cal are his new team, and you kind of fight your way out of Coruscant. And at the end of it, everybody except one of them gets killed horribly because of mistakes that are made.
I was really surprised that
they
that
really
happened.
go for it.
Yeah, no one's sacred in this game.
No, not at all. And so then you kind of have to go on the run, and the Mantis gets damaged, and you crash land on a planet, and you kind of start on a planet called Kodo, and that's where Grease, the alien guy with the 4 arms from the first game.
He set up camp at he's running a bar,
saloon, which he always talked about opening in the first game, and so that's kind of your home base, and that's one of the planets that's like super huge and has tons of stuff to explore. Which just there's more and more and more on that planet. Like at one point I was like 20 hours in, I'm like, I must have gotten through most of this planet. It's like 35% complete.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too. It's like kind of disheartening. It's like, what?
Yeah, there's a couple of planets that are just like huge, open, find all the secret stuff planets, and they're great, but it's like
it's almost overwhelming.
Game is huge.
It really is big.
Going.
Yeah, it's bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Me too. But I mean, I'm glad for that. I like that. And there's a ton of planets. I was worried about because they were being really cagey about how many planets there were.
They're like, well, there's Coruscant.
There's Coruscant, and it's like, but there's like Jeddah, which is another big open run around and look around things. Coruscant, and there's tons of other planets that are just like kind of one-shot dungeons.
Yeah.
But it counts.
Yeah.
You still
You're still going to the planet.
I love going to see a new place.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a Star Wars game, that's a whole thing.
Yep.
That's Bode. It's your new bro. And I know there's a romance thing with him and Marin, but the real sexual tension is between him and Bode. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you think so?
Oh, there's something there.
Well, I would argue that you do fight alongside comrades more in this than the last one. And there's mechanics for it.
Mechanics
so hit R1 and hit square. You can sick your teammates on enemies, and you can also take control of enemies. And there's a whole skill tree for that, where it extends the duration that you have control of them, and they will go and attack. Like, I use that on creatures all the time.
Oh yeah, big creature. Well, and they're also they're very proud of the fact there's 3 factions in the game. There's Imperials, Raiders, and Monsters. And they will fight each other in the wilds. Like if they run into each other in the open world, they will just have a fight, and you can stumble across that, and you can manipulate them. And like, I love finding like a bunch of stormtroopers fighting a big monster and just mind control the monster and let it wipe out all the stormtroopers.
Just sit back and watch them fight. Yeah.
To the point that there's a mini game about that, like that explicitly, the holotable thing. You can unlock a holotable game where you basically spend points to unlock any enemy you've fought and scanned already, and you can use them in like your little team. You line them up like a turn-based RPG battle, and then you hit the button and they just go a real-time fight.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that was in there.
It's really cool.
It is, yeah.
Like,
I was surprised.
I was like, wow, that's so crazy. I mean, you see why this game came in so hot. There's so much in it.
There is a lot.
They did so much in 3 years.
This is definitely a bigger game than I anticipated, just in general.
Absolutely. And like, the performance and the technical issues are not acceptable, but at least it makes a little more sense why it happened. Playing this thing and just being like, oh my god, it's still going. It's more stuff. There's more you can do. They're introducing like core concepts of things that are still listed as undiscovered in the main menu, like 15 hours in. Like,
you get new abilities 15, 20 hours in.
Yeah, like there's
like important ones.
20 hours in, I'm like, I'm going to go look around the main planet. And I realized, like, no, I'm missing like 3 abilities to unlock stuff still. I'm like, I have no idea what opens
it. Yeah. And I mean, there's some things that I saw the first hour of the game that I still have not got the ability to go back and open up. And I've been playing the living crap out of this game.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I mean, for all the problems. So I got this on PlayStation 5 and PC. Mm-hmm. I've been playing it on PS5 because the PC version is just borked.
All this B-roll is PS5, by the way, running in quality mode.
Yeah, I play it in quality mode. You know me, I prefer performance mode usually. Mm-hmm. Performance mode on this game is garbage.
Yeah, it looks bad.
It looks terrible. Like the textures are muddy and indistinct, and you can't see any detail on them. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do. And it drops below 60 constantly. So what's the point?
Yeah,
like the quality mode has its own problems and still isn't perfect, and it does drop, in certain places, but it's more reliable and it looks vastly better. And I'm sure it'll improve over time. Yeah. But I've been going quality and have not really regretted it. It's entirely playable. On my PC, we know that I have the
the monster.
I have the 13,000 CPU and the 4090 GPU. It runs. It's weird. It runs like, if he's just standing still, it runs at like 70.
Oh, hey, look, another pair of pants.
Commander pants.
It's so disheartening when you're opening up this stuff and it's just like garbage.
But I like those pants, actually. I wore those pants for a while. Thank God there's fast travel. Finally, there's fast travel.
Yeah, you can fast travel pretty much all.
That starts
everywhere, all over the place.
The third meditation point. Like, you never need to go walk anywhere you want to go if you have already.
Even with the ship too, like you just basically like you don't really travel to any of the planets. It's really just a warp.
Yeah, there's always a fun conversation.
And
for some reason, you still have to sit down.
Yep. Before you land, he always makes you sit down.
Kid, we're coming in. I'm like, well, so what? There's inertial dampers on this thing. I'm going to stand, jerk. But
wait, before we move on, though, let's finish up talking about the story, because I don't want to spoil anything, but kind of what becomes most important to the story eventually.
Yeah, I finally understand what the confusion over the High Republic was.
Yeah.
Back when we talked about the preview before, because you find a High Republic relic, and it opens up this idea that, because the planet you're on, there's like this warp storm thing above it, and it turns out that on the other side of that unnavigable warp storm is this other planet called Tanalorr, which is like it might be a lost Jedi
the secret Jedi planet.
It's a thing like no one else could get to, so theoretically if they could find a way to Tanalorr, they could hide out there as the new Jedi Order and sort of like build up their forces and bide their time until they could come back and do something about the Empire. So the thrust of the main quest is trying to follow the path of how to navigate that, and in the process you accidentally wake up a guy who's which you saw in the trailer, the guy in the back to tank.
He was like the first trailer, the teaser. Yeah. It's all it was him.
He's from the High Republic, and
let's not spoil anything.
Not entirely stable.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Let's not say much about him, but
there's a lot of stuff going on.
That's really the crux of the plot. So you get the team back together pretty quickly in this. Like all the people that you worked with in the prior game, you get them all in a room together, not too far into the game.
It's fairly.
It takes a little while.
The main quest, it's pretty early in.
But they
even comment on it. They're like, "Look, we're all in the same.
Yeah, they even make a joke.
Room." It's just like, okay, great.
But that's not the crux of the plot.
There's gardening. In this game. You want to tell me the one thing I didn't think was going to be in this game? A rooftop garden.
We actually knew that though when we previewed the game months ago. That was one of the things that we talked about.
It's more extensive. Like everything in this game is more extensive than I thought it would be.
Because you go out and you collect seeds and you grow them, and then eventually you find this guy out in the world who comes to tend the garden for you.
Yep. And you get like gardening bonus abilities.
Yeah.
So it's like.
And you can see the mounts. We've already shown you 2 different mounts. As it turns out, the gliding thing is just this context sensitive, and that's kind of absurd, honestly. That you have this bat thing that just sits there and waits for you to come over, and then he flies you from one butte to the next.
They all really like you. They're just hanging out in case you need a ride. And some of them won't go certain level. There was one where I'm like, oh, I want to see what's down there because I'm flying over an interesting thing, and every time I drop, it was just far enough that I die.
Yeah.
And I had to get to a different bat that flew lower. I'm like, fly lower, bat. It wouldn't fly lower.
There's definitely some gamey stuff.
They're basically a different take on the zip lines.
Yeah.
That's all they are, really. And every once in a while...
You have a little bit of control over
Every once in a while, you got to do a thing where you got to unlock, heat vents to let them, pop back up to get to where you go. That's all there is to it. They're not. You do not get a flying mount.
You can't just use them wherever you want to which sucks. There's lots of times in this where I'm way up high, and I would love to have a glider to just glide down to the ground.
Yeah, splitting my time between this and Horizon Forbidden West. That's the one thing that I keep I keep when I go back to Horizon, I forget she can't double jump, and when I go back to this, I forget that he can't glide.
Yeah,
those are the 2 things that mess me up.
So you see in here, I'm using my ally's powers there. So she has the ability to tie enemies down to the ground. So if you hold R1 on a PlayStation and then hit X, and if you're facing the enemy, she will use almost like a Spider-Man ability to trap enemies to the ground. And each ally has their own sort of special abilities that you can use. As you can see, she just also fights alongside you and helps you do damage. But
I do love that you can just go up and fight like a scout walker whenever you want. That they're a regular enemy.
I was afraid at first, but by the time I got to this point in the game, Matt, I was just walking through the game, man. Here's the hardly anything could kill me.
Even with Polygon's review and a few others, I think this game is absolutely easier than the first one.
I think so too.
And I just, in terms of combat at least,
I read one review where the person was like, "It's too hard."
Yeah,
I would have liked it, but it's too hard. And I was like,
Polygon
I expected this hard. It's not.
It's not. It really isn't. You have so many tools, and he literally is still fully upgraded from the first game.
Yeah,
and you just add to that. There's one optional boss that I couldn't beat. And that's it. Everything else has been basically a walkover. And
after 12 hours into the game, I was just devastated.
Oh, he's a beast.
Yeah,
and it's great. I mean, I love it. And also, having just finished the first game again to replay it in preparation for this, the parry window on standard difficulty is almost 3/4 of a second wider than the first game.
I actually ended up choosing an option in this that cut my window down.
Oh, the perk. Yeah. It lowers that, but it does more stamina damage.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Because it basically lowers the parry window to the standard parry window from the first game.
Right.
So it's entirely doable, and it's a good bonus.
Yeah.
The perk system, another thing that we...
Yeah. So when you go...
So much stuff.
Yeah, when you sit down at a meditation point, there's so much you can do. You can use your skill points that you've earned. You can set up your perks. Now, initially, you have 3 perk slots.
Yeah.
I eventually did something out in the world that got me a 4th slot.
Yeah, you can get... There's about several different ways to get more perk slots.
But it takes forever to get perks in this game.
Yeah.
I had my first perk for probably 6 hours before I got my second perk.
Yeah, the perks tend to be rewards for optional areas, and a lot of those optional areas are places you can only get when you have other abilities you've gotten going through the main story.
Yeah, you won't find them on your own.
I will say, one thing I do like is all the abilities that will help you get places and unlock locations, they are all gotten through the main story. You can't miss them, and they're not oh, I didn't do this random side quest, so I didn't get this one ability, which is why I haven't been able to open this kind of door for 40 hours. It's not, as long as you're playing, if you can't figure out how to get through something, play the main quest for all, and you'll probably get that ability soon.
Yeah.
So that I do like that.
The skill trees in this are insane. There's so many.
Yeah, much better.
There's much 10 skill trees?
There's 5 stances and 3 force ones and 3 survival ones, I think. So
that sounds right. So more than
11?
10. Yeah. There's a lot. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started playing it, all I kept putting my skill points in was just health and stems.
Yeah, I put a lot in survival. I got like one or two. My stances are single saber and twin sabers. They're all pretty good. Like double saber is so improved in this.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. I mean, it was always...
I enjoyed messing around with all the stances, honestly. But I did stick with, like, the pole for the most part. Like, because...
double saber is really good.
Because you use it, if you use, like, the force power with it, it just wrecks shop. Like,
it's crowd control.
It made the game so easy,
Cal is way better, both because of the upgrades he has from the first game and the upgrades you can get in this. Cal's way better handling groups.
Yeah.
It's like there's a bonus area where you fight 150 battle droids, like, from the prequels.
Yeah.
And, like, I think I got touched, like, twice the whole time. Like, you can wreck people in this game, and it's
there
it's
are
amazing.
impromptu horde modes that you come
really
across that you just find this thing and then you activate it and you just get transported to this horde mode arena battle, basically. And they're easy, too. Like, I managed to walk through all of those, I really found very little resistance in this game.
From the combat, I think the combat, they really worked on it and really made it
That was
better.
a great caveat you just shared there, Matt, because you're right. There's other parts of the game that are...
There's other elements that I'm like...
Yeah, it's the game's not perfect.
No.
It has some issues. The biggest issue that I have generally is that it doesn't follow a lot of the typical design philosophies, where you introduce something... The first time it's very simple, and then each time you show it after that, it becomes more complicated, but you've learned from the time prior, and so it's this natural learning curve. In this game, a lot of the times they'll introduce something that you've never done before in the game, but they'll introduce it in a way that is so obtuse that it's almost impossible to know what the game is asking you to do.
Yeah, for the people who constantly whine that, like, games spoon feed you too much, this game does not.
No,
it doesn't tell you half the shit you can do.
I've spent a lot of time in this game. Okay, I finished that objective. Now what?
Yeah, I've spent a fair amount of time being like, what do you want me to do?
Where do I go?
Even in the very beginning on Coruscant, there's a couple places where I'm like, where do you want me?
Exactly.
And I'd accidentally find it was like an optional area which ended with like a bonus thing or a force echo. I'm like, okay, now I don't know where you want me to go.
Yeah.
And it turned out I had to jump on this thing, and it was a climbable texture like way up here, and I had no idea it was there. And it's like, that happens a lot in this game.
It does, yeah.
And sometimes they will...
You finish an objective, and you're like, I have no idea where to go next, or what to do next.
And there's, like, even the little cues of, like, okay, so, like, the horizontal lines mean you can run on the thing. Okay, I see that, but how do you want me to get up there? And there's places where, like, later on they started introducing things like jumping from certain climbable elements onto a running, like, a very small running area, and then jump to that through a flagpole, and then over, like one of the slidey things. And I'm like... It's so awkward.
There's no build up to it
because it's also so awkward because like they didn't really improve the jankiness of the jumping and the physics on that. And there's moments where I'm like, am I doing it wrong? Is there supposed to be an intermediate step?
I second guess myself so many times playing this game, and I would wander off. So I'd get stuck, and I'd be like, okay, I've tried everything. This can't be what they want me to do. I'd wander off and spend 20 or 30 minutes trying everything else and come back and be like, no, this is it. And then you try it again, the same thing, and then it works.
Yeah, I definitely had a couple times where I'm like, why can't I make that jump? And I looked around, and I tried it again, and I just made it.
And you made it.
And I don't know what the difference was.
That is infuriating.
Yeah.
Like, you will burn time for that. I'll be honest with you, Matt. After I got to like the 20-hour mark, I started getting pissed off about it. And when I started getting to those points, I just stopped like trying to figure it out on my own. And I just started going and watching YouTube videos because I was like, I'm not wasting another 40 minutes on this. And you want to know what I found watching the YouTube videos? Everybody's dealing with the same thing we are. So if you go and watch those YouTube videos, they cut at that same spot where I would be stuck. The video would cut. And then they'd come back after they figured it out and they'd go on with it. So this is a problem that everybody is having playing this game. There's just certain points in it where it just doesn't clearly tell you what it wants you to do, or it hasn't built up your knowledge base or your skill base in such a way that you would expect to do what the game is asking you to do.
Well, I don't quite agree with that. I would say it's because like there's things where I'm like, okay, more often than that, once I figure out where it wants me to go, sometimes I just don't know where it wants me to look, you know, and there's no way to indicate that.
Yeah.
And a couple times I've only figured out where I need to be because I look at the map is actually greatly improved.
It is better. Yeah.
I've only okay, so you want me to go there,
but still not
through here.
Perfect.
Not perfect, but way better.
Yeah.
Way better.
It is. Yeah.
But like there's things where I'm like, I'll look at these things and I'll be like, I know what you want me to do. I don't know how you want me to do it. Not because of, like, I don't know what buttons to press, but because, like, okay, do I need to be high or low on this wall run?
Yep.
And if I go too high, he skips it. And then when he skips off of it, as he falls, he turns and then he runs the other way and falls to his death. And I'm like, okay, you're not helping me do what, I mean, you're like, I appreciate giving me the freedom and the physics of the game to sort of like find my own path, but it doesn't transition from that freedom to the kind of canned animation of the certain interactable elements. In a way that makes me feel like I'm in control most of the time.
You can't play this game freeform. You can't just
Very
be like,
hard to do that.
like you can't just like jump around like in a Mario game where it's like, well, this is where you need to go, but you can find 5 different ways to get there. That's not how this game works. No. They expect you to do a very specific thing to set yourself up. The other thing I found too, sometimes the double jump just doesn't work. Yeah, like if you're just mounting off of something, like if you're hanging down from like a grate and you're shimmying across it and you go to jump off of that, sometimes the double jump just doesn't work. Sometimes the single jump will jump way higher than it's supposed to, and you'll jump over the thing it's supposed to be landing.
He'll do like the flagpole gymnast jump off of like hanging from ceilings and stuff, which makes it very. There are a couple places where they want you to land on like pretty narrow like platforms or columns, and the jumping is just not built for that.
Yeah,
he'll slip off or fall off.
I have to adjust the camera.
And you're like, do you want me to double jump there? Do I need to sort of half double? You kind of like limit your jump. It's it's doable, and usually that stuff is mostly the optional stuff, like the challenge is to find extra objects and things. But like, it's still like it's still kind of not game breaking, but you remember you're playing a game that is honestly sort of held together by popsicle sticks and tape at times.
Yeah.
And which was an issue with the first one, and it's still here. I think they made combat feel a lot more grounded and a lot less like, I don't know if this is going to connect the hitbox kind of thing. Like, that pretty much is gone for me. I maybe should play it on, like, Jedi Grandmaster to see how that really works when you're putting everything to the max. But, like, while I appreciate how much they expanded how the platforming works and the puzzle solving and traversal stuff does, I don't think they quite got there in terms of making it reliable enough to be fun all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel too often I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing, and then it turns out I'm doing the right thing. The game just wasn't working with me.
That's the best way to put it in a sentence. That's the best way to describe what we just talked about for the last couple minutes. Exactly. There are workbenches all over the world. After like 6 hours, I never even used them anymore. They're everywhere. They really think that you're constantly going to want to change the color of your stuff and your outfits.
Well, the other advantage of the workbenches is they let you change your stances.
Yeah. Which otherwise, the meditation points are the only place that you can do that.
The workbenches are more frequent.
Yeah, so they're everywhere.
So if you want to change if you feel like you need it, that's usually when the workbench pops up, certainly in the story areas, I'm like, okay, there's a boss coming.
Yeah.
You want me to be free to change my stances.
If I need to.
Yeah. Which is fine, but it's like, the other thing, of course, with the workbenches is in the previous game, a lot of times when you found a workbench for the first time, you'd find an upgrade there.
Yeah.
Usually for BD1, and there isn't.
Yeah. I found a lot of the risk reward wasn't worth it. It's like you'll see this little tangent, this little side path off of the main path. You're like, okay, I'll do that. And then you go do it, you get to the end, and you get like a beard. It's like, seriously, like after a while, I started losing motivation to start like poking around in the world, because to me, the rewards weren't worth it. Like, I don't care about his beard. I don't really care about him having 50 outfits. Like, once I found a cool color for BD1, I was like, all right, I'm good there. Like, I just started ignoring the workbenches.
I still like finding the outfits. The other thing I like is that once you get the DJ in the saloon, you start unlocking songs.
Yeah.
And I really like a lot of the weird songs.
Yeah.
One of the things
they sound like their own genres.
Oh yeah, they did a really good job of like
they're very alien.
Yeah. And like one of the things I like most about Star Wars is when you get to like kind of find out about the culture and like what it's like to live in this honestly
that's what's great about this game in general.
You live in this horrible world, because I wouldn't want to live in the Star Wars universe. Like if you just even go in the kitchen in the saloon, it's like everything's bugs.
Yeah,
like, it's all weird arthropods. Like I don't think I'd get through a meal in this universe. But I love like that you can see like what the different music is, and like everything's done in basic or whatever. So everyone speaks basically English, what is basic in the kind of the universal basic language in Star Wars. But all the songs are in other languages because those remain culturally, what the alien things are, and like that's like a big mix of that. And like I love all the different weird aliens. We've never seen a lot of the different aliens that show up in the cantina eventually, and I love like that.
This game feels alive.
It feels alive, feels lived in. It feels like, which is what Star Wars. One of the Star Wars like
I agree.
hallmarks back in the day was as Lucas put it, the used universe, which was new then. Like no one had done that before.
Yeah, sci-fi, everything was always pristine, clean,
space stuff was pristine, and as Bethesda might put it, pre-NASA punk.
Yeah.
But like Star Wars was the one that said, the idea of a bar where a bunch of aliens hung out in space was completely alien to
no
pop
pun
culture
intended.
At the time. That cantina scene, we take it for granted today, but and it's playing like this weird light jazz music.
Yeah.
Like that was nuts.
It really
was. That was as drug fueled nonsense 70s as things got back then, and we just take it as part of pop culture now. But this game captures that in that saloon.
I agree.
And I
1000%.
really liked it. I love going back to the saloon and seeing all the new people there, and as you upgrade things and get further in the story, the saloon gets more and more popular. So there's even characters you can't interact with, but they're just hanging out having a drink, and it feels like a place.
It does.
Feels like
a lived-in place.
Which was the first. The first one was all abandoned ruins and empty areas, and there was no sense of being somewhere where people existed. And this is the opposite of that.
Agreed. They do a really good job with it. One thing that kind of bothers me about this, and even the last game a little bit, is that in a lot of ways this game doesn't give me a power fantasy. It feels like the Jedis are on the run, and they're not the most powerful beings.
They are.
I get that. I mean, that's the plot. But I don't when I play Star Wars games as a Jedi, I want to feel like the most badass person in the galaxy, and you do ultimately feel that way.
He is the most badass person in the game, other than some of the bosses. Really.
Yeah, but it just is weird that the setup is the Jedi. I almost feel like you're a little bit like a coward when you play this game.
I mean, that's part of his conflict, though, isn't it? He kind of thinks that about the original crew at the beginning, that they ran away, and he's the only one still fighting.
He does say that throughout this game as well. Yeah.
I think you've hit on one of the main themes of the game, really.
Yeah.
And one of the main themes of this era. I mean, Andor gets into that, too.
It does a little bit. Yeah.
That's why I think there is definitely room for, a High Republic or prequel era Jedi open world game. That's why I would not, if Ubisoft's open world Star Wars RPG turns out to be a Jedi simulator, I would absolutely not consider it redundant with this game, because it is a different power fantasy. You're right. Being the sheriff that restores order to the wild Outer Rim territories in a Jedi game is completely different to this sort of French resistance sort of thing that they're doing with this.
Yeah, the level design very clever. All the time you're cutting ropes and stuff to create new shortcuts. Everything folds back in on itself.
And I do think they communicate that better in this one.
Yeah,
I don't get lost in this the way I did in the first game.
I agree.
And it's not just the improved map. It's just the terrain is just easier to read.
Well, also when you come back after you've unearth a new ability that will unlock a new area, when you come back, you don't have to run through the whole damn thing.
Right.
There's just always a rope right there that you can go up and get into the heart of the level.
Yeah. Or you can, if you have to fly back to the planet, you can just fast travel to the meditation point that's near the thing you want to do.
Yep.
It's just, I cannot believe there's no fast travel in that first game. It's just so
it's really
weird.
insane. But I do wish that this game had fast travel across planets. Because you could only fast travel on whatever planet you're on. So if you're on Coruscant and you want to go to another planet, you have to get in the ship, fly to the planet, then choose fast travel to the exact meditation point you want.
I think that is a load time cover.
Maybe.
I think that's how they load the planets.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's some technical reason
why. So you're kind
why.
of stuck with that. I also think, while I don't mind it as much in this game because they do give it some personality, there's too much goddamn shimmying.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I mean, at least
I made sure to put it in the B-roll so people would see that it's in there, because there is a lot of it.
I mean, at least he's doing stuff and there's things
that it's kind of fun.
It's not. It's better than in Final Fantasy Remake where Cloud's just doing the same animation the whole time. But it's still there's a lot. Silly. I don't like the shimmying in these games.
But then there are nice touches too. There's this one level where there's a bird that's trapped. It's gigantic. You free the bird. And then when you go back to the hub world, the bird is flying overhead. There's little stuff like that scattered throughout the game.
Comment on that. At one point, I was over near where the bird was, and he's like, "Let's keep our distance this time."
But there's little stuff like that, and again, the level design is really smart. Look, I had a lot of fun playing this, but I will say, I got to around the 20-hour mark, and a lot of the little things started to add up, and the game started to aggravate me. And that's when I started, you know what? I'm not going to burn 30 minutes trying to figure this out. I'm just going to watch a YouTube video.
I mean, that's how I am with everything. So
I try my best to never, ever get help when I play games.
No, I fuck that. If I hit a point where I'm I don't know what you want me to do, I'm just going to look it up. I don't have time for that shit.
I try my best to not do that. But
I will do a little more work on that if I like a game a lot.
Yeah.
But it's for this, I'll look around and give it 5 to 10 minutes. But for another game that I don't particularly enjoy, I'm not wasting any of my life trying to figure out what stupid things a developer decided to put in some obscure thing. And that doesn't happen too often in this. There's just been a couple times, especially when they're introducing like the concepts of the beams that destroy the weird black matter.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I don't think that was explained well at all.
No.
And
Do
like,
you need to draw a line?
and there was literally a room at one point in one of the main quest things, and I just was like, I don't know what you want, and I'm Googling it.
I know the exact room. I did figure that out on my own, but I know the exact room that you're talking about.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Because it is a very specific place. And I'm like, what does something reflect these things? It doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
there's stuff like that in this game. That's just the way it is. But ultimately, I have enjoyed most of my time with it. I will say this, Matt.
I think it's a great game. It's just it needs patching. It needs updates. It needs to run smoother. Like I've been, the PC version, I get like a pretty solid. If he's just standing around, I get a pretty solid 70 something frames. But like if he moves around, there's shader issues, and like the Digital Foundry video will show you like there is shader compiling like stutters that happen every time on every piece of hardware the first time you play the game, and if you play that scene again, it's not there. And it's and it has a compiling.
It's like loading it into cache.
It has a compiling shader screen that lasts like almost a full minute every time you load the game. So I don't know what is happening there. There's a lot of weird artifacting in places on the PS5 version. When I rotate the camera too fast, there's white flash
I've seen that
artifacts.
I've seen details drawing in on
a lot of that. It's a lot of like Unreal problems.
Yeah.
Basically. And it just needs more. It needed a little more time in the oven. The performance on PC is not acceptable. Like they're not wrong about that. I would not consider it fully.
Digital Foundry skewered it.
Oh, they did, and rightly so.
And rightly so. It deserves
ridiculous.
it. Yeah.
And they did a patch went up yesterday for PC. It comes out today on console, and it did improve it, but it's still not good enough. To me, it's still too stuttery and too weird, and that's on my hardware. And like I'm running the thing, and it's better because at launch it was using like 30% CPU, 30% GPU.
Mm-hmm.
Now after this patch, it's using 70 something GPU, but it's still only using 35% CPU, and it's clearly very CPU bound. Because if you turn the settings way down, you get the same performance.
Weird.
It's bizarre. It's like they need to figure
weird.
out. And they said like this patch wasn't to address with ray tracing on, so theoretically if you take ray tracing off, it'll work better. But I'm like, why would I do that? I'm just going to wait till you to do that. Yeah. I will probably play this again when the PC version is working well in like a year.
I do wonder if I'm going to go back and continue playing this because there are big games that coming.
Yeah, I will actually absolutely finish this.
I don't know if I will, Matt. It really started to aggravate me the last few hours I was playing it. But maybe some time away will help because I did plow through this. I mean, I played it pretty much every extra moment I had for like 4 or 5 days straight.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly resented going back to other games because I'd rather be playing this.
Oh, okay.
As a game, it's exceptional. It's probably my favorite thing this year so far.
Wow. Okay. That's not for me.
Do I expect it to remain that? Probably not.
You never know.
There's a lot of. I mean, could be, but there's a lot of heavy hitters coming.
Yeah, this would be like my 3rd or 4th favorite game this year so far. Now the graphics, you're seeing the B-roll. It's stunning.
It is. It really is.
One thing I did notice though, whenever I was doing promotion for stuff around this game before I got to play it, like all the screenshots looked really grainy.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's up?
There's
like
a film grain filter.
And as it turns out, the game has the grain in it. Like I went up and stood like a foot away from my OLED TV, and there is a grain on the entire game. Yeah. It's weird.
It's a filter. It's on the first game, too.
I didn't even notice it on the first. Because I played the first game in 1080p.
Right. Well, when I replayed the first game on PC recently, that was the first thing I turned off. I was like, oh, get that shit out of here. And I turned it off on this, too.
But the game is a stunner. Like, there's moments where you just see, like, so many ships flying in all these different directions. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and so many enemies. Like, there's so many more things happening on the screen at a given time. And, like, the draw is, like, standing up on the big cliff in Jeddah, and, like, you can see all the monsters running around.
Doing their thing down
there. Like a stormtrooper patrol with a scout walker running across. At one point, I ran into this was just random because of the random spawns. At one point, I ran into 2 scout walkers at once.
Oh,
like,
wow.
2 patrols that kind of come together, and there was like 7 stormtroopers and 2 scout walkers, and I'm like, bring it. Like,
yeah, you can beat them. I mean, you can.
But like, I do not think the first game could have rendered 2 scout walkers at the same time. Like that.
Well, this also, got to remember, is PS5 and Xbox Series only.
Yeah, and it shows.
And it makes a difference. Absolutely. And then
I love this alien. I think it's Domo.
Yeah,
is her name. Like she is. She's
a good character.
I've never seen her in that alien type in anything in Star Wars before, as far as I know. And it's just cool how many new things are in this game. I love that, and I love there's all the weird little touches. You look around the decor. There's like, and it leans so hard into the Western. thing, which is great because Star Wars is a Western.
It is. A lot of people don't realize that, but this game, if you can't pick up on it from this, you're never going to pick up on it.
I mean, Han Solo is literally dressed as a gunslinger.
I know.
Like and Mandalorian obviously leaned very hard on the Western thing at the beginning.
I mean, he is like an old gunslinger, basically.
Yeah, and and that's akin to its source material, which is a lot of Kurosawa movies, but Kurosawa movies were remade into Westerns.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very similar thing, and like I love that it leans so hard into that because it feels good. It feels very Outer Rim, and then it adds to the contrast of when you go back to Coruscant.
It does,
and it's a really nice. This game is a nice reminder of like if you've kind of been disillusioned with Star Wars, which I haven't, but like it's like there's so much in this universe.
There is.
You can do
almost anything.
Well, that's why, because it's fantasy.
Yeah.
It's space opera. It's like you can do anything in this universe. Like, people go on about the Star Trek versus Star Wars. They go, well, the Star Destroyer will fight the Enterprise. The Star Destroyer would probably win against the Enterprise because Star Trek has like really detailed science fiction technology, and Star Wars technology is magic.
Yeah.
Like it's whatever it needs to do. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like,
once you start dealing with the Jedi and the Sith, it's all bets are off.
How long does it take to hyperspace from a planet to another planet? Days or seconds, depending on what the story requires.
Pretty much.
Doesn't matter.
Yep. A couple other small notes. There are these things called echo audio files that kind of fill in the blanks of the story when they don't want to use a full cinematic, and there's some great writing and voice acting in those.
Yeah, which is his thing. He's psychometric, so you can read the past off of objects, which is what a brilliant thing to put in that first game, where it's like, how do we tell backstory without like using all these cutscenes?
Yeah,
it's like, you just have him read the past with his mind.
Well, they do it in this one as well. There's also some light decision making in some of the conversations. Like, you actually have some choices. Yeah, you choose like where to go next and which mission to tackle next.
Yeah, in terms of, which one? I thought you meant like the dialogue stuff.
No.
Because I will tell you that when I played the PC version, I picked the opposite choices of the dialogue that I did on the PS5, and it's the same outcome.
Oh, it does the same. I'm not surprised.
It's like one line difference.
I'm not surprised to hear that at all. There is the new blaster stance where you use a blaster with a lightsaber. I fiddled around with that. I didn't use it a ton.
I really only use that on the mounts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that becomes your default stance when you're on a mount, so you can shoot while you're on a mount. So that makes a lot of sense. But like, that was not, I don't know. Part of my Jedi power fantasy isn't shooting people with a gun.
Me either. I didn't really use it that much. And then there's one level where you manipulate wind. Yeah, which is a really brilliant in concept, but the execution is terrible.
Yeah, it's you can tell like there's Zelda fans on the team. They're like, the wind temple, and it's like, it doesn't work.
No, it's like the worst part of the game.
That's the part I've yelled the most. I was like, I will get very personal with game developers if I'm yelling at
Me too. I like it. I like that they tried it, but they should have realized it wasn't working and cut it.
I absolutely get where they're coming from, but it didn't work. And I mean, it could work if they tighten it up continually over patch. Like, you could get there. Yeah. But honestly, you have got to give a little more guidance, and you have got to make him autopilot a little more when it comes to the weird wind stuff. Because like you said, where like one of the things earlier you said, like one of the things is like, if I jump this far, I get this far, and I need to be able to count on that. If I jump here, the wind needs to push me the same amount of space every time, and it
does not. Yeah,
and that
it's annoying,
doesn't
work.
That is why it's annoying, because you cannot count on what the wind is going to do. Like, I know what you want me to do. I understand that the wind is going to help me make this jump, but it didn't that time, and I don't know why. And that is the constant frustration of that section.
Yep, I agree. And then just one final point is that the game keeps giving you new stuff, to learn. So, like, even the platforming, I was like, the platform didn't change all that much from the first couple hours, and then they give you a brand new ability that changes everything for the platforming. Like, they just keep piling on stuff.
And then another ability that changes everything for how we can access. You're like, that thing has been in my way the whole time. That's not in my way anymore.
Yeah.
And that's very satisfying.
It is.
But it is like a thing where it's like, man, I can't even imagine coming back to this game after like a month or 2 month break.
I put it down for a couple hours and I come back and I have to scratch my head for a couple minutes. I'm like,
I can do that. Yeah.
Or I'm just like, where do I go? I have no idea what to do next. So there's a little bit of that in this game, but I think overall both of us enjoyed the game. I think
absolutely.
Both of us would probably recommend buying it.
I would wait until it's patched up, but yes, this is a buy for me.
I also say it's a buy. The other thing I would say too is it's already $10 off. Yeah, so it came out as a $70 game. It's already $60 in less than a week.
And like, I think it's also on a lot of the May 4th sales. Mm-hmm. I saw another is that a pirate site? I don't know.
GMA,
whatever.
Yeah,
They
well,
do weird
I
shit?
think that's the one that's ripped people off as well.
Okay. They have a sale on it going. It's like pretty substantial. But again, that's the PC version. You probably don't want to touch.
Yeah, you don't want to touch that right now. I've had a lot of fun playing it, but I feel like my enjoyment of it has been waning the more I've played it.
I don't.
No.
I still love it very, very much. I don't disagree with any of the things you're complaining about because I also have complained about them very loudly to my television. But it doesn't ruin it for me at all.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't ruin it for me. Again, I'm recommending that people buy it.
I'm still playing it. I'm like, you know, I know I'm not gonna like get probably through the whole thing in time for Zelda.
Because it does seem gigantic.
It really is, and there's so much to do.
I was blown away by how big
there's
the
always
game is.
reasons to go back every year when you get a new ability because there's always stuff to find again. And
There's still like 3 abilities I don't have.
Yeah,
At least 3.
Yeah, you get your money's worth.
You
even
sure
if
do.
It doesn't fucking run right.
You definitely do. I don't know if a lot of you guys have been playing it, but let's go into chat and see what you guys are saying about it. Hopefully some of you guys have been giving it a go. Kevin Roffa says, Respawn said this would be a trilogy. What would you want in a third game? Space combat, perhaps. That's a good start.
Yeah, space combat I could get
I'd be
behind
down with that.
for sure.
I would like to interact with more Jedi.
Yeah, I would
Even though you're kind of like the last
I would
one.
like him. Yeah, but there's other. We know there's survivors
Yeah.
running around. I'd like to see him team up with some other Jedi for like kind of a Seven Samurai sort of
Yeah,
thing.
that'd be great.
I would like to see more planets. More big open planets to run around in. Just more of that. I mean, the thing is, I don't know where you go.
The J-Bone says, I'm done giving my money to publishers that put out half-ass games. This isn't a half-ass game.
No, this is a full-ass game.
Yeah, I mean, look, Matt and I, we make a habit to bring up flaws that we see in games because we know for some of you, it's a deal breaker. So there may be certain things that you just don't like in games, so we bring them all up. That doesn't mean that this is this isn't a game. We're about to talk about a game that shouldn't have come out. This isn't a game that shouldn't have come out.
Like, I will definitely say avoid the PC version for now if that's your only option or your preferred option. The console versions are completely playable.
Yep.
They're entirely fine.
Yeah.
They're not ideal. Like, they should run better. But, like, the PlayStation 5 version's fine. Like, I'm having a great time playing it.
Yeah.
I wish I could play it on PC because it does look better there. It looks amazing on there. But it's just too chunky. It's just too stuttery for me. And it's like, look, I don't care about perfect performance. I'm not one of those like, oh, I paid for this 4090 and it should be flawless. Like, I don't believe that. But the stutters happen enough that they like mess up the platforming.
Sometimes.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
If it interferes with gameplay, I can't play it that way.
That's where you draw the line. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, if you play through the section the first time, it doesn't stutter the second time. I'm like, that doesn't make anything better because you want to experience it the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to experience it the first time on PlayStation 5 because it runs better there.
Yeah, that's what I've been playing.
And that's ridiculous.
Yep. Clay UK Garage 1988 says that, our donations aren't working. Somebody just used a donation tool today, literally this morning. So I don't know what's going on there, but I'll have our site engineer take a look at it. I'm really sorry about that. Oh, but instead I became a patron. Well, there you go. That's even better.
That'll work.
I'd much rather have the recurring money than just a one-time payment. It's time for me to join the community after watching Pactor Factor. You guys deserve it. Thank you very much.
I would
Appreciate
also
that.
like, if they do a 3, I would like to see him team up with the Rebels crew.
Yeah, that's not bad, too.
And Ahsoka should show up.
Yeah. Navosi.
Cameos all around.
Yeah. Navosi and Fire Native, thank you for Twitch Prime. You guys slid those in while we were talking about
You should
Star Wars.
You should also run into Cassian.
Yeah. El Guapo says, so far the stances don't really matter too much to me. They did to me.
I think they're very different.
Yeah. Or Diana21, thank you for Twitch Prime.
Like I think the weakest stance is probably the pistol, the blaster one.
Yeah.
Although that is its own thing. Like they do have its own combos and like there's interesting things.
Yep.
But like I am actually very surprised and pleased by how much they differentiate the different stances from each other, and I do have preferences for sure.
Yeah, I thought there was a big difference. At the end, like, again, they keep piling stuff on. They gave me 2 stances in the last, 4 or 5 hours. The one I have been using is the one where you have, the
crossblade, yeah.
Yeah, the crossblade.
Kylo Ren.
It's really slow, but, man, does it do damage.
It hits like a truck.
It really does.
Yeah.
So I've been messing around with that a little bit. I think they all feel different to play, and they all have their place in the game. Agent Legend Watson, do you feel the reviews are on point thus far? What's his? I didn't even look at his Metacritic average, actually.
It's doing pretty well. It's getting 9s.
Is its Metacritic a 9 or higher?
Probably not anymore.
I mean, I would guess,
high
based
for a while.
upon the 7 to 10 scale, this game's probably got a high 8. That would be my guess. There's That would be about right, I
I
think.
think it looks like 86.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
Yeah, 86 on PS5.
Stolte69, thank you for Twitch Prime.
87 on Xbox, and 78 on PC. The user score on PC is 2.0.
It's got to say, who gave it a 7.8? That's very generous.
And 5.0 user score and 4.6. The user scores are garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, they're not. It's not as good as it should be in terms of performance, but it ain't that bad.
Yeah. Swan Senpai says, I'm done feeling like a mug. I'm not buying games day one anymore. It's always us fans who end up with the worst experience. Swan Senpai, Matt and I, we're not going to lead you wrong, bro. We're not going to tell you to buy a game if it's broken. Like, one thing you should know about GameFace is we don't bullshit. Like, we're not fanboys for anything. If something sucks, we're going to tell you. If something's great, we're going to tell you. If we're telling you, like, the game isn't that bad. A PC? Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't
buy the PC version right now. Console versions are totally fine.
Yeah, and they're only going to get better. And they're getting that Look, the patch on PC yesterday really did improve things, just not to the degree that I would consider it like my preferred way of playing it. If the same patch is hitting today on consoles, I think that might be like really the thing that smooths it out correctly. Like, so it's gonna, because the consoles do not have performance issues on the level of the PC.
Yeah,
they just don't right now.
Yeah.
So I think that'll.
I've been playing on PS5. There's been a couple stutters, but
I've also had one crash on PS5.
I've had no crashes,
and that has never happened again.
Yeah, I've had none. So,
but you better believe I sent that video report in.
There you go. That's Star Wars Jedi Survivor, available for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series consoles. 2 thumbs up from Matt and I. Although we do say you should wait on the PC version until they issue a couple more patches.
Game fantastic, technical status not fantastic.
Yeah,
it's basically like those are two different things.
Yep. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game that has not fared quite as well. It just launched last night on Game Pass. I was shocked how early it went up. Like,
I was
5 p.m. Pacific it went up. I wish more games did that. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be good.
It actually gave me
something I wanted to play would be
enough time to play it, and that game is Redfall. I have now honestly.
I think that's named after the aggregate score color.
I have managed to actually play this game for like 10 hours already. Because I played it literally from the moment it unlocked until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore last night.
I am not going to get 10 hours out of this game.
Redfall is a seminal moment for Xbox because it represents the first game, exclusive game for Xbox and for Game Pass since it acquired Bethesda.
Good job.
Ironically, it released other exclusive games for PlayStation after the acquisition
Deathloop did
that are better than this game. So they ended up shorting themselves. So it launched last night.
I'll be honest, if I was Phil, I would have killed this game.
Just killed it altogether?
I think this game's a terrible idea.
I think it reeks of desperation, Matt, is what I would say.
Agree with that. Yeah.
And
I don't think that's just Microsoft desperation, because this game predates the acquisition. This is the last remaining bloody cough of that weird pivot that Bethesda did, where we're not going to do first single player RPGs anymore. We're doing multiplayer stuff. Where
lots of publishers are doing that. Oh yeah, but let's be honest,
they were all mistakes.
Yep.
And Fallout 76. There was another thing they did that I can't remember now. That was like. Also, but this is the same thing. This is like we're going to do multiplayer things, co-op things, and this is kind of the last remaining one of that wave. And nope.
Right now, look at this. It looks like an indie game.
Yeah, I can't believe the cutscenes are just these are the same cutscenes as in Everspace 2.
I know, man.
It's the same thing.
I know.
Everspace 2 is 20 people in Poland.
I know.
This is Microsoft.
This has also been in development for a really long time.
Years. Yeah, like long before the acquisition.
Yeah, there are really no legit cinematics in this game.
The thing I really don't get is like, and look, the bugs are all through this thing too. Like, this is worse than Jedi Survivor.
Oh yeah,
not necessarily performance-wise, but in terms of actually functioning as a game.
Yeah.
The beginning of the game, the first like fight you get into after you get to the kind of get out of the ferry and learn how the controls work. All the enemies were facing away from me, with their backs to me, and then their guns were pointing through their back, clipping through their backs, and their barrels were sticking out of their spines and shooting at me. That was my first impression of Redfall.
Again, I played it like 10 hours yesterday. I saw 20 bugs.
And I'd say maybe a third of the vampires I run into can't see me.
They can't see you. They glitch.
They glitch.
And they just go inactive, and they just float in the air, and you just walk right up to them and kill them.
I just shoot them in the head with a pistol for that, and I stab them with a stake, and they're dead. Like, none of it works.
It's pretty busted. And
here's the thing I don't understand. Like, why did they put this out now? No one was clamoring. This isn't. You're in the middle of Jedi Survivor and Zelda, and you're about to get Diablo 4 and Final Fantasy 16 and Street Fighter 6. Like, nobody would have cared if you pushed this to like August or like October.
I'll tell you why. Because Microsoft has all the data on what's going on with the Xbox Series, and it's not good.
This ain't gonna help.
We're gonna talk about what's going on with Xbox and PlayStation later on in the show here. But to me, this is a sign that Xbox knows a lot more than everybody else about how their console sales are going, about how many people are subscribing to Game Pass. Now, I agree with you, Matt, that if you're trying to get more people to subscribe to Game Pass and more people to buy your console, probably the worst thing you can do is release a bad game, but not just a bad game, like the Harbinger game. This is the game that people are looking to see, okay, are all these acquisitions that Microsoft is making, all these development studios, are they going to pay off in games that we want to play, in great games?
Yeah, better or worse, or fair or not fair, this is like first impression time.
Yeah.
Basically.
And it does not make a good first impression.
Not at all.
At all. The basic premise of the game is Redfall is a little town. It's been taken over by vampires. The people of the town try to escape. The vampires attack the cruise ship that they're all on and sink the ship.
One of the most visually confusing ways I've ever seen.
When you get out of the ship here, you'll see it here in a minute in the B-roll. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know what that... Why are the vampires like wizards? Like, I don't...
How do the vampires go out in the daylight? Have you figured that one out yet?
Some of them can, some of them can't.
It seems like they all do.
No, they've done something to the sun. That's what it is.
Oh, they put some weird thing over the sun.
They Mr. Burns to the sun.
But how does that only affect Redfall and not the... I mean, this is absurd.
They basically turned Redfall into an island.
Yeah, but how does the rest of the world not come and be like...
Because they can't get through. It's magically protected. Because the vampires are fucking wizards for some reason. I don't know. Like, this is one of the weirdest takes on vampires I've ever seen in a game.
There you can see the sun. It's like blotted out there. Yeah. And I guess that's how the vampires are allowed to go out.
Because in that opening cutscene, the lead vampire, she says, "You'll never see the sun again." I'm like, I see the sun right
there.
And then I was like,
daylight.
No, it's covered with some thing, so clearly it's not enough UV to like kill them. Like, because you see, like, she just sort of burns a little bit, but she doesn't instantly die.
Yeah. And then the weird part is you have all these cultists who are going around killing the humans. That's the food. So why would their cultists kill the humans when the vampires cannot eat them and drink their blood?
I think they're supposed to be bringing them to the vampires, but you don't see that.
No, they just kill you.
Like, even in the first place you get, like, there's a vampire in the basement that's like supposedly eating people, but there's just dead bodies all upstairs everywhere that the vampire clearly didn't eat.
Yeah.
So what?
I mean, you start thinking about this.
You're gonna run out of people after a while.
You really have to turn your brain off to play this game in many ways.
And look, it's not that I don't believe that a bunch of assholes would join the vampires, because we've already seen how that goes in real life. But like, it's like I don't see the plan here. That's all I'm saying.
It's an absurd setup, and that's really all you get.
It's not a compelling setup.
Yeah, and there's no other plot either. There's no threads going on here. There's no one that you're trying to save. There's no love interest. What's the goal? Is the goal? I think the goal is to escape.
Yeah, to get out of Redfall.
But that's never going to happen, because then the game ends,
right? And
it's an ongoing game. The whole thing is absurd. It's just absurd. There's no other way to look at it. Like,
it's a very wiggly shadow.
Yeah. So let's talk about how the game plays. It is a first-person shooter. The default controls for this are a complete disaster. There's this weird whip where if you hold left or right with which direction you're looking, when you first tilt the stick, it does nothing, and then it accelerates.
Yeah, the acceleration curve on this is bizarre.
It's insane.
Man, I can't even navigate the fucking menus.
I know. It's because it does the same thing with the stick in the menus.
Well, and also, I didn't find this until like an hour or so in, but I've never seen this before. There's an auto-aim assist for the menus.
Yeah.
It's like pulling your cursor to like the boxes you don't want it to be on. I'm like, just get out of my way.
The Japanese dude says maybe they drain your blood after they kill you. Nope, they just leave you laying there bleeding out. You come across people all the time in this game laying in literally a lake of blood.
Yeah, a big pool of blood.
They just let it all go to waste on the floor. There's nobody there with the squeegee like pushing it into a container. So it is a first-person shooter, and the controls suck. This is the first game that I've had to go in and adjust the sensitivity in like years.
And it still didn't really fix it for me. It still feels weird and muddy and...
Yeah. Oh, it's awful.
It does not feel good to play.
The clambering and the climbing, disaster.
Awful.
It feels... Awful. It's a disaster. It's like you're glitching over everything you try to climb over.
Yeah, there's no sense of concreteness or
there's no animation that sells it. You're just like, and then you're over it, and you can keep going. Like...
Even that, like you're just sticking your arm out. There's
there's no
weight
force.
To it. There's no nothing. It's.
I will say this, Matt. The headshots still feel good in this.
Headshots do feel pretty good.
I don't know how they did it, but
it's that sound effect. It's that ding.
That snap.
There's a little ding.
Yeah.
Ding.
But here, look at the AI. Watch me stand behind this idiot.
Also, if you melee someone from behind, it does insta kill them, but the game never tells you that.
There's also no stealth kills. There's no prone. There's no snap animation. There's like this game is the game that isn't done. That should not have been released out to the public. Don't try to conflate this game with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. They are not the same.
No. This is a absolute disaster. Somebody, I can't remember which outlet it was, but one of the reviews, the opening line is Redfall is not fit for public consumption.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been released.
It's not. No,
it's not done. I mean, I don't know if the cinematics came from them trying to wrap up the game.
I don't know, but it's not. I hate it.
I don't hate it.
I think
so I hated it at first, like big time. But I was like, I got to stick with it. I got to see if it gets any better. And what happened was I ended up getting a gun. First of all, I adjusted sensitivity and got the controls to a place where I could at least manage it. Then I got my first decent gun. I got an assault rifle. And what I realized with that assault rifle is I could use it like a sniper rifle and headshot the vampires from like 200 yards away with like one shot. And then the game changed. Then it was easy. It was hard for me to make way. Like, you die really
I don't know
easy
if you look at that. They misspell vulnerable in that.
Yeah.
Like, that is the level of care happening in this game. I have never seen that before.
Yeah.
And a major thing that pops up every single time you do that kill. Who didn't catch that?
Yeah, I don't know. There's 4 playable characters in this. Each one of them has 3 special attacks. I chose...
Each one of them is about a third of an actual skill tree from a normal single-player game.
Yeah. It's not an action RPG. It's an action adventure as far as that stuff is concerned, the character development.
Very... Like, you don't feel like a complete character. It really feels like you need other people to have a full
and you
fighting
can't!
force.
So this is supposed to be a cooperative game. There's no matchmaking. Matt, there is no... I invited you to a game last night. Did you get my invite?
No, I didn't see that.
I tried to get you to play.
I was walking away from the TV a lot last night.
Because I couldn't...
might have just not seen it.
You can't find anyone to play with because there's no matchmaking. You can only play with friends that are on your friends list.
How in the world...
That's insane, Matt. That's insane.
How are you supposed to... That's so
I don't
weird.
know. But there's 4 different playable characters. Like, I chose the guy with the Raven, and his special abilities are so lame.
Yeah.
Like, the Raven, like, will expose people behind buildings. It doesn't matter. Like,
no, same with... I picked the medic girl, the search and rescue girl. Remy, I think is her name. She has a robot. She's a little robot. I'm like, I can't play Jedi Survivor, but I'm going to have a robot buddy when we're they have it. And, like, she can, like, set up heals, and she throws C4. But, like... The robot basically, like, you hit a button and it basically, like, distracts all the enemies. And, like, but it doesn't help because they still, like, circle around him, so they don't hold still. It's not like it doesn't... I'd rather have them looking at me so I can get a beat on them. It doesn't matter. Like, like, the abilities aren't good or fun. Like, it's so weird.
You can't... Look, it's a live service game, so you can't pause it.
No.
And this is a game where you have, like, skill points and stuff you're trying to assign. Anytime you do that, it's alive. The game's alive. You can get attacked because there's people just roaming all over the world. I will say that there's plenty of enemies out in the open world, like almost too many.
To kill, for sure.
There's plenty of people out there.
Oh, and Vincent also points out that only the host retains progression.
That's absolutely right. Well, that's not 100% true. The host is the only one who gets the progression through the campaign.
Movement. You keep your levels.
Keep your levels and stuff like that if you're not the host.
But what if I don't want to play everything twice?
Yeah.
Or 3
then you need to be the host.
Stupid.
Yeah, and you're going to have to argue with your friends over who gets to be the host and who gets to make the progress every time you play.
And oh boy, do you want to talk about the opposite of Jedi Survivor in terms of, like, feeling like a lived-in place with actual characters in it. Oh my god.
Or just the graphics in general.
The graphic. In this. Look at her hand.
I know.
Like, why is it?
She looks like an NBA.
She's not a vampire. Like, I mean, I know some of this is just like the weird arcane like art design.
Yeah, here are the
but
skill
it
trees,
really
by the
doesn't work
way.
here.
There's actually a lot to them, but I really found barely anything that actually affected anything.
No,
I couldn't tell the difference.
I put all my points in carrying more ammo.
Yeah,
Like that was
makes
the
sense.
thing that helped the most. None of the abilities looked particularly interesting.
They're not. And again, the abilities that they only have 4 characters, Matt, and they couldn't come up with interesting abilities for 4 characters.
Yeah.
What happens when they get to character like 9?
And it looks like that looked like he looks cool. Like he's on a bird. I mean, there's a cool character in there, and it's called Borderlands. Like it's a character that basically is him in Borderlands, who's really good.
Yep. The other thing, too, is that when you first start playing, your character only has one of their special abilities. You have to level them up before you get the other 2, including the character's ultimate. So you have one map to the left bumper, one map to the right bumper, and then to pull off the ultimate, you press both bumpers at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's how you use all the special abilities.
And there's just like this thing where like it just unlocks so slow. Like and you're finding like upgrades and like equipable things for things that are still locked for a long time. And you're like, what do you do? Like, and like, I get that you want to kind of ease me into how the game, but it's like we've all played this kind of game before. You don't need to like this character feels like the safety is on for like hours.
Nope,
before
it really does. And for what?
For what? Yeah, exactly. For what? The game is not difficult.
There's also, they use a red mist in this game to try to keep you from going to, like, it's basically a gatekeeper. There's red mist out in the open world to keep you from going specific places. I don't know why. I guess maybe they're not finished, or that's where expansions are going to be built.
I don't know.
But the red mist is everywhere.
Oh, the red mist goes away when you take over in the neighborhood.
Yeah, when you take out, like, a vampire nest, then it goes away.
Well, once you kill the underboss or whatever and take the neighborhood back with all the safe houses, then that red mist will go away. But only on the side where the neighborhood took over.
Yeah, well, if you take out the vampire nest, you come out, it's sunny in the neighborhood after you take out the nest.
Well, I found a nest and it wouldn't let me finish it.
Why?
I don't know. I killed everything in the fucking building, but it wouldn't.
And did you untether the heart?
There was no heart.
Oh. Well, then it must have been a vampire nest then.
It was. They said it was.
Huh.
But the thing I was supposed to do wasn't it didn't spawn or it wasn't in there.
Because the vampire nest, they're like a gauntlet that you go through, and at the end, there's this gigantic beating heart. It's literally the size of like a house. And then it's tethered down by like 4 vampires. And you have to go and sever all the 4 tethers, and then you shoot the heart, and it explodes.
There was just nothing in that room.
Oh. Well, then you do that, you shoot the heart, it explodes, and then you have to escape. You have like a minute to get out of the area.
There was just nothing in there. So I figured I was there too early, or I wasn't supposed to be there yet. Because I do the thing where I just poke around. I don't follow this. Yeah, I was ignoring the main story. And I was like, well, maybe they're going to introduce that later. And I don't know what. Oh, the other thing that I found that I couldn't figure out, what are the houses, like the places with the fang icon? You know what I mean? There's I found a couple places like houses that had like a vampire mouth fang icon on it.
I think that's where you fight the underboss of the area.
Okay, because I cleared those things out too, and nothing. I didn't find anything. Like, it was nothing in there. Because I went up and down I found 2 of those places. I went up and down them, and I killed everything in it, and nothing happened.
Huh. That could just be a bug.
Yeah, I guess.
Really, I don't know. Because there's so many bugs in this, everything could be a freaking bug. There's loot galore. Loot everywhere. Everything you touch gives up some kind of loot.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, I played it for 10 hours. My inventory never filled up. I was still adding loot to this invisible inventory.
I did fill up on fucking lockpicks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They only let you carry, 2 or something?
3. You can carry 3 lockpicks and 3 of the binary decoders.
Yeah.
And I have to use the binary decoders to heal my robot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then you use them to hack things. And I'm like, how come I can't carry more than 3 of these things if it's a regular health item for one of my fucking main
absurd.
things?
But they'll let me carry like a million rolls of duct tape.
Oh, yeah. You can carry however many baby dolls you need. Go ahead and pick those up. That's fine.
Yep. So there are branching missions in this. So I don't know. I know you didn't play a ton of the main missions, but if you go through the main mission path, you get to points where, for the next level of that mission, you could choose between 3 missions. And then you complete one of those, then that mission will continue, or you can go back and try one of the other 2. So
the side quests and like the safe house missions kind of work that way too.
Yep. And the safe houses are important in this because that's how you set up fast travel points. So you find a safe house, you have to turn on the generator at the safe house and then enter it, and then it's unlocked for fast travel for the rest of it. And that's really important.
There was a thing. So one of the safe houses I found, the generator was inside a garage, and the garage had laser fencing on it.
I know the exact safe house you're talking about.
And I spent like 10 minutes trying to disarm the laser because I thought it was a bomb.
Oh.
And I went, and finally I'm like, I guess I'll just run through and hope I survive. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
It just turned off.
Well, there was a vampire hiding in there too, or was it a cultist? There was somebody in the garage.
There were vampires, but I killed them all already.
Yeah. I know that exact spot. But anyway, opening up the safe houses is really important
so
because
confused
otherwise you have to
at the
keep
time I played
running
this game.
miles to get to do stuff from your first safe house.
And there's nothing interesting to do between point
There's
A
nothing.
and point B.
There's either the
completely
cultist
empty.
humans walking around or vampires, and that's pretty much it. And you just fight them as you come across them.
And they're all pushovers. It's so boring.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Early on, you're like, the vampires look all scary, and they're doing teleporting, got shields, and all that. And I'm like, oh no, I'm like 2 shotgun blasts, that shotgun.
Yeah.
It's like boom, boom, stab. All right.
Yeah.
I almost died when like 4 of them attacked me at once, but then I just shotgunned them, and that was the end of it.
That was that. Yep.
And I think one of them probably forgot I was there because a lot of times they seem to get distracted because I don't think that AI is completely locked down yet.
Yeah.
It's
Another weird caveat is you can pick up ammo from enemies that you kill, but you cannot pick up their guns.
Yeah, their guns just vanish.
You have to find the
I
guns.
wanted an assault rifle very badly, and I killed a guy with an assault rifle, and his assault rifle falls to the ground and just sort of
Dissolves.
melts into
Yeah.
I'm like, hey!
You have to find the weapons in a house somewhere.
Dumb.
Like, it very specific, leaned up against the wall, then you get the weapon.
Well, a couple times I've found like weapons that enemies were carrying, but that were completely different from the weapon they dropped. It's very strange. Very strange.
Yep. So yeah, you just can't pick up the weapons the enemies drop. You got to find them, adventuring around and digging into basements and
stuff. It would be
stuff.
one thing to find them like good ones, like rare ones, or sure, but I should be able to just pick up like a generic assault rifle from somebody. Come on.
Yep. So apparently, also another thing to note. Another thing to note about the vampire nest is apparently they change every time.
Oh, they're like procedural?
Yeah, they're procedurally generated, which may be part of the problem of why yours didn't work,
Yeah,
Matt.
I guess that could be. Yeah.
As I said, I had to turn down the aim sensitivity. The shooting feels crappy. The movement feels crappy. You feel like you're doesn't
Skating.
feel like you're running. It feels like you're skiing or skating across the ground.
But
there's no sense of propulsion from your legs at all.
I call that arcane movement.
Yeah.
That's just what they all feel. All their games feel that way.
Every other first-person game has moved past that. First-person games aren't like that anymore. You feel
this feels very
each
archaic.
step now. You feel the surge forward as your foot plants. This game is not like that. You're just skating across the environments, basically. And I'll say this, too. You can run like an MFer, man. You're like Jesse Owens in this game. Like, it's really crazy how fast you can run. Like... Yeah.
How weird is it that this is the trailer and all the cutscenes are just still images?
I know. This is the debut trailer. This crazy CG thing that made the game look way better than it actually is.
Yeah. Or even that, I mean, the most recent preview where they really went over a bunch of stuff, like, I was more interested then. I was like, okay, this looks, there could be something, and oh my God, I don't think I've been left as cold.
That's what the publisher does, though. They curate that little demo that they let the press play. And it's a lot of times it's not indicative of what it's like to actually play the real game.
Like, I didn't pay for this. This is a Game Pass game, and I'm still mad.
I still feel ripped off because I'm paying for Game Pass.
I had a friend who, like, I had a friend online who was, like, this morning I looked at the chat, and he says, like, if anyone has Game Pass and has not downloaded Redfall yet, don't waste the time downloading 90 gigs or whatever it is. And I'm like, too late, but I agree.
I mean, I can go on and on about this game. Like the enemies, they can see through everything.
Yeah.
Like they can see through trees, they can see through buildings. They know
when
where
they see you.
They know where you are at all times.
Yeah.
It's like one of those games where they're just like, yep, because it's a video game, they know where your character model is.
And then one of my things I started to do is because there's usually UV lights outside of safe houses, so I just run out and get the attention of as many enemies as I could and run back to the UV, and they all just run right in.
Just melt right into the UV lights.
They turn into dust, and you whack them, and they fall apart.
And you collect their dust.
You get the XP, and you're good. Like
Yep, there's no graphic settings on Xbox Series X. There's nothing to adjust.
There's no invert Y option until you get into the game. It's literally not in the options screen until you start playing.
I mean, I could just go on, man, about this game. There's just so many issues. It's just you couldn't. It would take a whole episode of GameFace for us to talk about all the problems in this game.
Like, oh, you get all these customization. You want to talk about outfit customization that's pointless.
Yeah.
I can't see my character.
Yeah.
What's it for everybody else who I'm playing with that I can't play with because there's no matchmaking? Like,
and it's just like hairstyles and like
jacket colors.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's not like you can create the character you want to play as. Like, you have to choose one of the 4 templates, and then you just put stuff on top of it.
And it's also, like, not, like, the characters are not interesting or unique, really, in any, like,
they seemed like they were in this trailer.
In the trailer, they seem, and in the select screen, they're trying to sell it. But I'm like, especially coming right on the heels of Dead Island 2, where all those characters, even though they're going through the same story, do feel like different people.
Yeah.
Because they have personalities, even in a first person.
Matt, it really is insane watching this trailer. Having now played, this is a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, this trailer is a lie.
I mean, I'm sure this was the original idea, but it's not the game that ended up coming out.
This is not the game that I played for 10 hours yesterday.
No.
It just isn't.
How did you stab that vampire without wearing them down for 14 shots? Like,
the Abram. Did Arcane say they were inspired by Far Cry 2, or am I misremembering? I don't remember that, actually.
Somebody did mention Far Cry 2 in one of those interviews.
Really?
That is right. I do remember that.
Okay, I don't remember that. AJ the Legend Watson is asking, has this tarnished Arcane's reputation permanently? Is Microsoft now regretting its acquisition? Well,
no.
Here's the thing.
Not regretting the acquisition because they've got Elder Scrolls 6 coming.
Right, so Arcane was just a part of the Bethesda purchase. So if you say, like, we don't want Arcane, that means you don't want Bethesda. And you do want Bethesda. Like,
yeah, I mean, you're getting Arcane whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Bethesda.
Unfortunately, you're getting Machine Games. There's several studios that came along with that sale.
Yeah. Oh, Wolfenstein Youngblood. That's the other, like, weird multiplayer co-op focused thing they tried to do.
Yeah.
That didn't do
it. It also was horrible and did terrible. Swan Senpai, I could tell you some things. Xbox really struggling in UK, Ireland at the moment. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. It's not just struggling in the UK and Ireland. We're going to talk about it. And that's what this... And I don't want to sabotage our later discussion because we are going to talk about some of this stuff. But, Matt, this is... A lot of people were looking at this game as like, okay, this is when maybe it will... more people will decide to join Game Pass. These are the types of games that Game Pass needs to get more people to sign up so they can...
games you wouldn't pay $70 for, but you might pay $15 a month to have access to.
Yeah, but...
Not this one. And look, I'm not going to fully judge the situation until Starfield is what it is, one way or the other. You know, if Starfield is a disaster, then I'll be a full-on team. Somebody needs to take a good hard look at what's happening over there.
Yeah.
I never thought this looked good. I think you may recall even that initial trailer. I'm like, okay, really? Because I don't like arcane stuff generally anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you don't like shooters. You don't like cooperative shooters. This was more in my wheelhouse, so I gave it more the benefit of the doubt.
It gave such a Left 4 Dead impression at the beginning where I was like, I have no interest in that.
But it really isn't like Left 4 Dead, though.
No, it isn't.
And I tried to tell you guys that because I was in the beta.
The Far Cry comparison is actually pretty
It is.
apt.
It's apt, yeah. And I did play this a little bit in the beta, but like that was what I was saying earlier when I said there are very specific sections of the game to make you think the game is better than it actually is. And then you finally see the whole thing laid bare, and it's not what they had misled you to believe it was. So, Kevin Rafa, this is what happens when a great studio known for Dishonored, Prey, etc. is making a loot-based shooter. Yeah, here's the thing. The game has been in development for a long time. It's just too late now. The ship has sailed on that type of game design. Yeah. And I mean, look how...
And it's a company... I mean, Arcane, love them or don't love them, and I don't. But, like, their strength is not the shooting. Their strength is not the fighting. Their strength is the immersive sim aspect. Their strength is the sort of the world aspect. The strength is more their kind of the RPG part of the action RPG. And they decided to do a shooter, like a loot-based shooter, which is like the worst... Like, you're focusing on the things that you have never particularly done well as a company, and that basically, like, even in the games they make that I like Prey, I put up with the shooting in exchange for the rest of the game the part of the game I like. And I'm sure it's not like you can't let developers try to grow. I mean, obviously it's like the Horizon, Guerrilla Games had never done anything like an open world action RPG before they made Horizon, and that turned out great. But like, you got to know whether you're going to be able to pull this off or not. And this, in addition, as you say, that that kind of trend is over. I mean, even Borderlands struggled to get their. That was a Borderlands kind of. People would compare this to Borderlands to some degree. I think. And like, even that has struggled and had to kind of reinvent itself as Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which did well. But like, you're not going to compete in that space when it's so tight and kind of the fad is over. And it's not what anyone wants from Arcane.
Yeah.
And
some people...
And again, I mean, I know people are blaming Phil Spencer for this, but it's like, it is Phil Spencer's fault that this came out maybe in the state it is, and it wasn't kept and baked or maybe even canned completely because it just wasn't going to shape up the way it needed to be in time to take advantage of that trend. But, like, this concept goes way back from before the Microsoft acquisition. Like, this was a bad idea from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying like an open world co-op Far Cry style vampire game is a bad idea at its core. I'm just saying, I don't think Arcane was ever going to make a good version of this.
Well, some people will say that Arcane made a first-person shooter that was a Game of the Year candidate in a lot of publications. However, what people don't realize is that was Arcane Lyon.
Right.
That was a different development. This actually should have been better because this is the real Arcane studio. I'm just blown away by...
Although, to be fair, we went over this when it came out. I wouldn't put Deathloop too much above this one.
Well,
I don't like
neither you or I were big fans of Deathloop.
No.
But I'm just saying, a lot of people were...
But it is nice to see all the reviews in this reflecting the same level of lack of interest or gameplay loop interest that, like, Deathloop also has, but no one... I mean, the people gave 10 out of 10 to Deathloop. That's out of the...
Because they just had the time twisting thing. A lot of times it's just the shiny thing
well.
that... Like,
yeah.
I get it. Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
Look, Deathloop worked better than this game on a technical level. For sure, it wasn't buggy as hell like this is.
It's way more polished.
But again,
this game should be better. This is Arcane's real team working on this game.
Far Cry with vampires is a pitch that I am interested in.
Yeah.
It's just, this was not how to do it. This was not the time to put it out.
Yeah, Nutsuck was asking, is this Arcane Austin? Yeah, it's Arcane Austin.
Yeah.
It's the real Arcane. This wasn't like some splintered off like team. Vincent says the problem is that if this was a pre-acquisition project, it should have come out a lot sooner. Oh, God. Could you imagine if it came out sooner than it did? What a disaster it would have been.
Yeah, I think this was just a really badly timed kind of... It was right there in the middle. I think it was just far enough along that you could be like, okay, you should continue on this because there's sunk costs and it's coming along. But it was not far enough along to be able to say, oh, this is going to work.
Well, Microsoft probably looked at it like it too. It's like, what, Arcane's new game is almost done?
Yeah,
that makes the acquisition make even more sense because we'll acquire you guys.
Yeah.
And 3 months later, here comes Redfall.
Yeah, we got to put out Deathloop on everything, but then we get this to ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, on paper, that looks pretty good.
Oh, man. It did not go well for Microsoft. So that's 2 thumbs down for Redfall. Look, we know a lot of you guys aren't Game Pass subscribers. And so definitely do not pay full price for this if you're not a Game Pass subscriber. That would be a huge mistake. And now I'm not quite as harsh as you, Matt. Like, I don't know. I got something out of the 10 hours I played. Am I going to go back and play it more? Probably not.
I want that hard drive space back.
Yeah, see, to me, like, I'm not so mad at it that I'm like, oh, I spent an hour downloading it. I don't hate it that much.
I wouldn't be as down on it if, like, we weren't in the period we're in right now. Where there are just so many better things to play.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
and they're only going to get better here.
If this was out in the middle of nothing, if this came out like March 2nd or something, it would be different.
Well, there's also a different story behind this.
Better to do.
With the whole Bethesda acquisition and Game Pass, there's a whole different angle to it now. So, a huge disappointment. If you were waiting on this game to finally join Game Pass, first of all, you should have joined Game Pass anyway, because Game Pass's value so far has not been in games like this.
No,
it's been in the
like
we're actually going to talk about another Game Pass game later on in the show that's a smaller, more indie type game. That makes more sense for a service like this. This is just build everybody up to just let them down more than anything. It absolutely should not have been released in this state.
No.
It doesn't matter what version you're talking about. It's not finished.
You could argue it should not have been released at all.
Maybe. We'll see where it gets to by the end of the year.
Like, I think there's a ceiling to how good this game is going to
No matter what.
Yeah. And
we'll see.
Probably not premier quality. Like, you probably...
It's not driving millions of people to Game Pass good.
No, you're not buying hardware for this one.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's Redfall. It is available for PC and Xbox. You can buy it, although that would be a huge mistake. If you want to give it a go, get Game Pass for a month. But what's going to happen is you're going to play Redfall for like 3 hours, and then you're going to realize why Matt and I have been telling you to get Game Pass, because there's all these other awesome games on there that are worth playing. So, huge disappointment for Redfall and Arcane and Microsoft and Bethesda. Just really the worst possible way you could start out that partnership. It's really hard to think of a worse way.
Yeah, and I don't think it should really reflect on that too hard in like a more objective sense. but you're never going to get past the general sort of core gamer public perception of that. Like no one expects the enthusiast fandom to be reasonable or rational about any of it. So it's just going to become the new talking point that like Phil screwed up and Phil should be fired and all that, which is nonsense. But like, yeah, this probably
is it.
Yeah, it is.
We'll talk a little later about that.
It might not be if the next couple. We're going to talk again. I'm going to judge Phil and the acquisition period by Starfield and Hellblade 2, basically.
But these other games still count and matter. You can't just ignore the bad parts.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think they particularly do, because I don't think most people are ever even going to hear about Redfall.
Really?
Does Redfall have ads on like basketball or anything?
I haven't seen any ads for it
Redfall is being buried, and probably for a good reason.
Well, I think we know why now.
So worry about it when one of their big high-profile come on in and check this out games like Starfield. Worry when that one.
I mean, what if that one comes out and it's busted up and broken?
Absolutely. That is like I've always said. Even going back to last year, Starfield is my most anticipated game, but mostly because of a giant question mark.
Yeah. Let's look at what Chad's saying.
And the answer to that question mark could be Redfall. Like we don't know. We don't know until it happens.
Yep. Early contender for worst game of the year, El Guapo. No, but definitely most disappointing. It's leading the pack.
Probably maybe the worst like big
game,
like big 3 release. There's other games I think I've liked less. But.
Yeah. El Guapo, damn shame. It is a damn shame. It really sucks. And I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of why this was released unfinished. Whether it was Phil Spencer's call, whether it was Phil's boss's call, whether it was Arcane's call. We may never know, unfortunately. Digital Reflex, Halo Infinite.
In the end,
that's another one. Halo Infinite was a huge disappointment too.
Yeah. In the end, the buck stops at the top.
Yeah.
So at some point, you got to answer for that.
Yeah.
And like, the question becomes like, are you sort of stepping back and letting these developers do their own thing and it's kind of turning out the way it turns out because of that? Or are you trying to micromanage and it's not working out? Or you're not, and it's like so many of these companies are having trouble with things like, like what do we know about Hellblade 2?
Yeah.
Like that's taken way too long for me to be comfortable with right now.
I agree. Evil Only 5 says that he's seen lots of ads for Redfall. So so they're out there. I haven't seen them. I watch a lot of sports, and that's usually where video game commercials run, but I have not seen any for it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen any publicity for it. I didn't even know it came out yesterday.
I've been watching the NBA and NHL playoffs.
If I wasn't looking at Twitter, I would not have known it had gone live yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, I knew, because I have to prepare the show.
Well, I certainly didn't realize it went up at
I had to do all the pre-production.
I certainly didn't realize it went up at 5.
Yeah.
Like, that was weird.
I was awesome. I hope they keep doing that for big Game Pass games.
The weird thing is, I went to go download it from the store on Game Pass, and not that I wanted to, but it wouldn't let me buy it. It said it was unavailable for purchase. The only thing I could do was download it for Game Pass.
Weird.
And I think it had gone live maybe like 40 minutes earlier.
What a mistake it would be to pay $60
for
that game. Oh my God.
Let alone like the $80 like deluxe edition or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Kevin Rafa asked finally, can it be saved or should it just be killed?
I don't think you can just kill it. You put too much effort into it. And
I say you support it till the end of 2023.
Yeah.
If things aren't turning around, bye-bye.
Pretty much.
That's what I would say. Okay, let's move on. It's hard to move on. We go from a high to a really low. And now we're going to talk about a game that Matt played, but I have not spent much time with. In fact, I played like the first hour because I just didn't have time. And that is Horizon.
I only played a few hours of this too.
Okay.
I'm maybe, I'd say, a third of the way through it.
Okay.
It's actually seems to be fairly substantial.
Yeah, and that is Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores, the first and only story DLC for Horizon Forbidden West, set here in LA. It's really crazy how many games in the last 2 weeks have been set in Los Angeles.
Yeah, this one's less recognizable.
Yeah, because it's way more overrun.
Most of it's underwater, really.
Yeah,
and lava. There's a lot of lava. It's a very it's a seismically active place, so everything's sort of got like volcanoes and stuff. So it's the classic expectation of California falling into the ocean, basically.
It hurt that it started with this guy.
Oh, with Lance?
Yeah.
I really wonder what they're going to do in the next one without him.
I know.
Like, because Silence is such a key player in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you do it without him.
I wonder,
and
too,
I don't know how you replace Lance with somebody else.
I don't know either.
That's very hard.
I don't know what they're going to do. Because it's obvious playing this DLC that he was a part of the plan.
Oh, he's practically a secondary protagonist at this point.
And he always really has been.
Yeah, he's the main antagonist, really.
Which you wouldn't think, but he is.
And by the end of the main story, he's kind of decided to team with you, and he's like, well, you're all doomed, but I'll hang out and see how doomed you are.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. And that was kind of really one of the big climaxes at the end of this game.
That's funny. I'm wearing the same clothes in my game.
Yeah.
Although I'm not painted up quite as elaborately.
There aren't that many outfits.
Oh, there's tons of outfits, but I just don't like many of them.
Yeah.
I have something like, how many outfits? I mean, I have something like 30 or 40 outfits. And I only like 3 of them.
I use like 2 outfits the whole game.
Same. I was in the car. I was in the car just shadow outfit for like 50 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's a long ass game. That's a long time to use the same outfits, but I did. So Matt, you've been playing it. What are your impressions of it?
I mean, it's good. It's very hard, just like Frozen Wild. Like this is expert mode. Like you're fighting mostly Apex machines.
Do you think that's the right tack to take with
I think so.
DLC?
Considering how much of a walkover it
got really easy
third
at
of the
the
game
end.
for both Horizons is the fact that Frozen Wilds and this both be like, okay, here we're gonna throw everything at you. Like, you know, you can't just like run around with your bow and like your sharp shot and your hunter bow and like take everything out and expect to, like, you got to think about it more. Like, I started a fight with a Thunderjaw and a Slaughter Spine, and that did not go well for me. Like it was, and like that's the first time I've died in probably 40 hours.
Yeah.
Like it's.
So that sounds like it's a good idea to jack up the difficulty a little bit. It's a little jarring though, going from the ending.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, these things are killing me. I'm like, it's a shift, and you know, I upgraded a bunch of stuff, and so my arrows actually take more resources to make now. So I had to get used to them. Oh, I don't actually have too many of them. I'm used to having almost infinite resources.
Yep.
And now I don't, which is even more interesting.
It's funny. This opening scene here is just like a tour of like Overrun LA, basically.
Pretty much,
It's like, here's all the landmarks that we have from LA. Check them out, which is cool. As someone who lives here, it's pretty awesome that it's gratuitous that they did it in such a
you
gratuitous
see like the Capitol
way.
Records building, and like little thing. It's fun. Like you recognize things. The palm trees are still here. You know.
Yeah, they're like the only things that are still there.
Which is very funny, also because all life died on Earth as part of the plot of this game. So at some point, Gaia or whoever the AIs that were repopulating the Earth, there's the Chinese theater.
Yeah,
repopulating the Earth. We're like
Hollywood Boulevard right there. Yeah. They're hiding on Hollywood Boulevard,
Hollywood Beach. And at some point, the AIs were like, well, there should probably be palm trees in LA one way or the other, right?
Barry Lomax is saying, I went into the DLC with mostly all legendary weapons upgraded, and I kind of bodied everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have everything upgraded that level.
Yeah,
it's because I haven't really found, because I didn't do the arena enough to like get the legendary like hunter bow and sharp shot.
I didn't get any of those. Yeah,
I have some legendary weapons, but they're all the types of weapons I don't like using.
So they just sit there.
I have the purple ones fully upgraded, and they do well enough. But like and legendary armor upgraded, and then you know I have the appearance put over one of the armors I actually like.
Yeah.
So yeah, like but it's still definitely a bump from the main game, I would say.
Squishy is asking, do you two recommend playing Zero Dawn or jump straight into Forbidden West? You don't need to play Zero Dawn to enjoy Forbidden West to its fullest.
I would recommend doing so.
Well, you can definitely get the first game a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's still a great game.
It's still good.
But Forbidden West is significantly better.
Yeah, but I think I do think the reveal of the apocalypse, the nature of it, and what happened is better in 1.
I would agree that if you don't play 1, your appreciation of the plot in Forbidden West is going to be extremely muted.
Yeah. The things that
you can watch videos on YouTube, but that only goes so far.
Yeah, the things that happen in this, a lot of the weight of it comes from what you know from the first game about what happened in the past,
and some of the struggle that you went through as the player in the first game. Like, that matters.
I would definitely recommend playing the first game.
I would too, but you don't have to.
You don't have to, but I would say you'll have a better experience if you do.
Agree. Yep, I agree.
And by the time you finish that, this will probably be cheaper.
By the time you finish that, you'll be 50 years old. Yeah. And you'll be looking for something else to play, because both of those games are long, man.
Yep.
I think I finished Forbidden West like almost 60 hours or something.
That sounds, I mean, I did more stuff. I was 70, 75 hours.
Yeah, because you do a lot more side stuff than I do. Although I did a good bit in Forbidden West, because I found it interesting.
I still didn't finish all the I didn't finish all the rebel camps. I didn't do all the arena stuff, which is where you get the medals to get the really good gear.
Because eventually you have to do something else.
The game basically had post-game content.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you like about it? What have you not liked so far about this DLC?
Well, I like
How do you like the new character and the plot and everything?
She's cool. Like, I don't understand all the consternation over the fact that Aloy in this girl basically end up together.
Yeah.
And if you didn't see Aloy coming as some kind of
I mean, come on,
not straight,
Mr. Naive,
you are not paying attention. Like, there's a period,
Mr. Wishful Thinking.
There was a period of time where I thought that maybe she might be asexual.
Yeah.
Because she just doesn't show interest in anybody really, but she's always had better rapport with female characters, and it is even in the main game of Forbidden West. They talk about how Elizabeth, her the person she's cloned from, had a gay relationship with another woman.
Yeah.
Like, it's all there.
Guys also have pursued her. She doesn't reciprocate.
Yeah, she's not into that. And like part of that might just be like most of the guys who pursue her fucking
are
losers.
adults. Yeah.
But also it's like she doesn't have time for that. She's running around all
saving
over
the
place,
world
saving the world
again.
Like, it could go either way. It's like either she doesn't care about having a relationship with anybody, or she's just too busy to do that, and that makes sense too. You know? Also, she was raised as an outcast in the wilds by basically a drill instructor, and probably isn't super socialized.
Matt, look at that shot right there. Dude.
Very nice.
Could you imagine, like, back, even in the N64 era, if somebody walked up to us and was like, "You want to see something? Let me show you what a PlayStation
see a dead body?
Let me show you what a PlayStation 5 game is going to look like." I mean, look at that. It's insane what video games have become. It is amazing. This is why I got into this industry.
And you do get to drive that skiff. Like, that's your kind of your main transportation, because you get your flying mount shot down by the tower there when you first come in. So the first mission is to go deactivate that tower, and then you can fly around again. But it basically forces you to go around and explore. The side missions are actually a little more involved in this. Like, there are multiple objectives, and you can kind of piece things together however you want, whatever order you want. Those have been really good. It's a substantial amount of content. I'd say you're probably going to spend, I'd say it's like 8 to 12 hours in here.
Yeah.
And a lot of other stuff to find. There's a lot of stuff to explore.
Nexus 6 Batty brings up a good point. He says, James Earl Jones retired as Darth Vader, but his voice will live on through AI. Like, I'm sure they can do the same with Lance Reddick's voice as well. It's true.
They could.
Because they have hours and hours of his voice recordings in high quality.
They're going to need his estate's permission for that,
though.
So
but I mean, they probably will be okay with it after time.
I don't think they will.
Maybe not immediately.
No,
yeah.
I think there's going to be issues with
You could be right. It could take time.
James Earl Jones specifically told them, I'm giving you permission to, like, that was his idea. He's like, I'm going to give you permission to simulate my voice because I'm happy with how you've done it, so you can keep Darth Vader going for as long as you want to.
Yeah.
Like, that was his choice. Like, approaching a dead celebrity's relatives and saying, hey, can we resurrect their voice with a AI? I don't think there's a lot of, like, polite society precedent for that. I don't know how you start that conversation. I think it might make more sense to sort of talk to the agency and talk to his family and talk to his actor friends and say, is there anyone who would feel comfortable taking this role over?
That shot too right there, man. Look at that.
You can definitely see. There's a bunch of places where you can definitely see why this is only on PS5.
Yeah. By the way, we should have mentioned off the top. This is PS5 only. You cannot play the DLC on PS4, even though you can play the base game on PS4. Again, I don't think that's ever happened before.
I think it has.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but that isn't unprecedented. But it is rare.
This game looks stunning.
And
obviously.
but also, like, you fight more machines show up in fights than in the main game. Like, there's definitely places where I'm like, okay, you're fighting a Thunderjaw and a Slaughter Spine, and they summon a bunch of the little, like, burrower things, and then, like, a couple of the freaking kangaroo things came in. Like there was a point where there were like 7 or 8 machines fighting me at once, and I had Regala with me, and she was like fighting them, and I was like, yeah, I've never seen anything of this scale in the main game.
What's the main thrust of the plot in this? What are you doing?
You're there because that gets into spoilers for the main game.
Okay.
But basically, you thought you killed all the bad guys at the end of the main game, and there's one of them left that you didn't know about, and he's in LA, and so you go to find them, and he's the one running that tower that shoots you down. And you find this is another group of Quen. You find the Quen on the West Coast in the main game. They're from, I think they're from Asia, basically. They come across the ocean looking for the ancestors and archives and stuff. And they got hit by a storm, and they're sort of shipwrecked in San Francisco. So this is the other half of the fleet that got separated in the storm and ended up in LA. And they don't know that anybody else survived, so they've been there for months and are kind of like formed this little like pocket society. And this guy is like, he's basically a cop. He's basically like there's like it's a very repressed thing that only certain people get to have focuses, and they control information. They basically misinterpreted all of the history of the world, and it's become their religion. And so that guy is basically like the Gestapo, and he's like enforcing people doing their roles, and so he's kind of the main enemy early on.
Has it kept your interest and kept you driving forward?
Oh yeah. So
now you've been playing this while you've been playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
Which have you enjoyed more?
I like Jedi better.
Yeah.
But that might be because I've played like 80 hours of this game.
You had
already.
just finished this.
Yeah, I finished
like
I
the
finished
base
the main game of Forbidden West last week.
Yeah.
So I went back to it because when I realized that you couldn't play the new DLC unless you'd finish the main game, I'm like, oh, I better get to that.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to do it in like a day and a half, but it took me like a week because those main missions are pretty long. But yeah, it's very good. I'm not super far into it, like in terms of, but like you're trying to, and so you team up with I can't remember her. I think her name is Regala, but I can't remember. I might be misremembering that. But she's a soldier in the Queen. She's like unusual for the Queen because she's very rebellious and she's looking for her sister. Like her sister's missing, and she knows the only way to find her is to kind of go rogue. And Aloy wants to get to find the last remaining bad guy, and with the super tech. And so they kind of team up to take the tower down and decide they like each other. Like that whole thing is sort of like you're running across things, and she's like, "Oh, look out! Those machines are really dangerous. They're not." And Ayla's like, "Yeah, I know." Like, and so they kind of like you have some fights, and she's like, "Oh, you know how to do this?" She's like, "Yeah, I know how to do this."
I see, gotcha.
So they kind of prove yourselves to each other a little bit.
Yep.
And that kind of thing. So,
is this $20?
I think so, yeah.
20 or 25. I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Me either.
It's worth it. It's very robust. There's a lot of stuff.
And rumor is it's at least 10 hours long?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm already like 2 hours in, and I've done 2 of the main story quests and like 3 side quest things and exploring things, and there's still a bunch of the map I haven't uncovered. And
okay.
Yeah,
so you would recommend it?
Just like Frozen Wilds. It's like it's a significant bump. There's 4 new machine types. There's a bunch of stuff. There's a lot to doing it, and it integrates obviously into the main game. It's a separate area. It's not like Frozen Wilds where you try to just cross over that one mountain and you have to actually choose to go to LA. But no, it's a substantial chunk of content.
The other thing too is that for most people, they finish this 6-8 months ago,
if they finished it at all,
right? And so they're not, and that's the other thing too. You have to have finished the base game to play this. You cannot play it if you haven't finished the base game. But for most people, it's been 8 months or whatever since they played the base game. They're ready for more. Like they're not like you who just came off finishing the game last week and now you're jumping onto the DLC. They're probably ready for more Horizon at this point. So
AJ the Legend Watching brings up a good point that Lance was such a big gamer that the family might want to cooperate.
That's true, actually.
He did love doing video game stuff. Like,
I mean, let's be honest. He did bigger things in games than he really did for a long time in acting.
Yeah, I mean, he had some major stuff, but like, I mean, he offered at G4. He offered to play the on-stage live demo of Destiny 2 for us.
Yeah,
because he loved doing. He's like I love doing voices for games because it's fun, and also they give me the game early. It was like
nice fringe benefit.
He was a real one, for sure.
So anyway, there you go. That's Horizon Forbidden West: Burning Shores. Either $20 or $25.
It's 20.
It's 20. Matt says worth the $20 if you enjoy the base game.
It's more of that, but more so and harder. And like it's solid.
Just 2 things to remember: it's PS5 only, for one, and you need to have finished the first game in order to play it. Yep. So as long as you satisfy those 2 things, pick it up and enjoy it. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the topic I've been teasing for much of today's episode. We're going to talk about the console war. We don't do that really on GameFace. A lot of other podcasts,
honestly, there isn't much of one.
Well, every other week, most other podcasts are like, let's do the console war check-in, like for like once a month or whatever.
Yeah, but those people are boring.
But we're gonna do it today because some things have come to light.
Which international mega corporation's gonna win? Rah rah! Who fucking cares?
We don't care. I know it's a joke.
Do you know who actually is gonna win? Nintendo.
Maybe. Well, this year for sure. We're going to sell a lot of games.
$1.5 billion at the fucking box office. I'll tell you that much.
Have you guys noticed, by the way, that my chair isn't squeaky anymore?
Oh, well,
you probably haven't, but it's not.
The fact that you haven't noticed is the point.
Exactly. So some things have happened over the last week that have kind of like we didn't really know what was going on the last 3 years because there was a pandemic and there were shortages for hardware and components and they couldn't make as many machines as they needed or wanted. And it was really a fool's errand to try to figure out where things were going. Because the other part of it too, Matt, is that Microsoft had decided to go down this new pathway that we had never gone down before. We didn't know if Game Pass was going to work. Like, what are the metrics for success with Game Pass? We didn't know any of that. But now that the pandemic is over...
Which I think was partly by design.
Yeah, maybe.
The obfuscation of what success means with Game Pass seems to be intentional.
I think you may be right. And I think I may have said something to that effect initially when Game Pass was first bandied about.
Yeah, it's interesting that this concept inherently...
means you can't be
cannot be measured.
Because, Matt, it started with, by the way, Microsoft taking back the sales numbers. Remember?
Right.
For like 2 years, all of a sudden Microsoft was like, you know what? We're not going to tell you how many pieces of hardware we sold, and we're not going to tell you how much software we sold anymore. And that had happened for a couple years before the Game Pass era started. So I felt like it wasn't even really
right
fair.
Smack in the middle of where those numbers were pretty embarrassing compared to the competition.
Yeah, pretty much. So I didn't think it was really fair to talk about this stuff until now, because supply chain... wide open. There are no more delays. There are no more component shortages. You can build as many consoles as you want and need to now. So all bets are off. It's fair to talk about this now. And this week we got some information that was quite flattering to PlayStation and much less so for Microsoft. First of all, PlayStation 5, Matt, I know it may be hard to believe, but it is tracking to be the best-selling console of all time. It is tracking to beat the PlayStation 2, which is the best-selling console of all time at like 150 or 160 million units or something like that. And PlayStation right now is tracking to destroy that. PlayStation this year, this fiscal year, is tracking to sell more PlayStations than ever. If things hold up this year...
you can actually buy one.
Right.
Okay.
If things hold up this year and sales continue the way that they are... this fiscal year, they will sell more than 25 million consoles, which is something PlayStation has never done.
Makes you wonder. I mean, obviously, you can't really extrapolate it. It makes you wonder what, in a world where the pandemic and the chip shortage didn't happen,
what happens?
Where would we be in that?
I can't even comprehend it.
Yeah.
As of right now, 38 million PlayStation 5s have been sold already.
I never thought we'd see a time when like PlayStation 2 was outclassed in that regard, because there was PlayStation 2 sold like you wouldn't believe. People,
I couldn't even fathom how well it sold
because it had the DVD player capability,
and it broke. Yeah, and a lot of people had to buy two of them.
One, but it's like that thing. I remember at the time, it felt like there was no way to top that, because it was not only was it a good system, it was a singular moment in time in terms of its use case.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are. It is whooping PlayStation 2 as of right now, which I never, ever thought would happen with any console.
But consoles are dead any minute now, right, Packer?
Exactly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anytime now.
Believe me, when we record, I ask him about this stuff. And he always has some thing that he says. I'm just like, okay.
It's not the word I would use. Okay.
Thing. Yep. So PlayStation 5 is just dominating. Now... that's great, but you can't really... it's hard to say, well, we don't know what Microsoft is doing, and so maybe Microsoft is doing just as well, and that has leaked out over the last week.
I would not believe
that is not the case at all.
Yeah. I have always assumed they are selling somewhere in the half range.
It has leaked out that Xbox sales have been slowing drastically, that Game Pass subscriptions have slowed drastically, and actually are kind of like flat. Not down, but flat, because... PlayStation Plus subscriptions are actually down. They're really high. They have like 50 million subscribers, but they're actually falling from where they were.
I think changing the format on that was a mistake.
It seems like it. But still, they have like 50 million subscribers, which is freaking amazing.
Yeah, you can take some attrition damage with that.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's looking like Game Pass is a bust, Matt. And now we have this game, Redfall, that was supposed to be like the next big release. It's supposed to convince people to jump on board. And that's not going to happen.
I mean, I'm not super convinced that's what Redfall was ever positioned to be. It would have been nice.
I think that was the perception, I guess.
I think that was the hope from, like, maybe if you saw it internally when you were buying Bethesda. Like,
yeah.
Oh, we could use this for that. I'm sure they've known for the last 6 months to a year that is not what Redfall was going to do.
Well, after they were playing it internally.
For sure, yeah, exactly.
They knew it wasn't very good.
The first real test of that is Starfield. Starfield is your limit. If Starfield does not move the needle, I guess you start over.
Matt, are you not kind of getting to the place where you don't think anything's going to move the needle? Because that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, here's the thing. I do think there is something that will move the needle. It just doesn't matter. because the thing that would move the needle is Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah.
But that's years.
It's so far away.
Years away.
Yeah.
Years away. Like, minimum 3 years, right? Like, but
Yeah.
probably more. Maybe not even
Maybe
this generation.
more.
Like, we don't even know, right? So I mean,
I would say at least 2 years after Starfield is released.
yes, for sure.
At least. Yeah.
At least. So you're two canaries in this coal mine. Redfall is a bust for sure. Redfall doesn't dictate the future to me. Redfall it would have been a nice to have, but it was never going to set the world on fire, even if it was a great game. Mm-hmm. Your two canaries in the coal mine on this for me are Starfield, which is already kind of blowing up a little bit. People I know that don't know about internal game stuff know what Starfield is already. Like, Starfield is an exciting idea. If it sucks, we have a problem. Well, I don't have a problem. Microsoft has a problem. And the other one, because now there's a lot of chatter because of them featuring it in a coming 2023 montage. Hellblade 2 was in this montage. Yeah. That Hellblade 2 might be out this fall. If Hellblade...
That's not a needle mover, though. I mean, it just isn't.
It could be, though.
It would have to be like GOTY, like Game of the Year, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But here's the thing. I think there is a timeline where it is that.
Yeah.
Because the
first one has that psychological angle to it.
I think Hellblade 2 is a massive reinvention of what this thing is.
It better be.
It has to be.
As long as it's been in development.
But, there's two options on that. Either it is that, or it's just hit tons of technical snags,
right.
And it's just, and they're going to put the thing out. You're like, why did this take so long? And it's just like, well, we couldn't get all the tech to work. Or it's like a Jedi Survivor thing where it's like, not that took so long, but it's like, we expanded this thing out tremendously. There's all these new things you can do. Is a huge thing. Basically, like you could do an Assassin's Creed 2 thing, basically. Mm-hmm. You know, like, first game's really cool. Second game is like lives up to the promise of what we saw in the first place, and that's what Hellblade 2 should be. And hopefully that's what it is. But also Hellblade 2, I think, has been delayed and in development long enough under the auspices of Microsoft that I think you can judge the final product as a product of Microsoft.
Yeah,
you know
because Hellblade's been under the banner for a while.
Yes,
it isn't
exactly.
like Arcane or Bethesda.
Right. It's not like a project. I mean, obviously they were working on it before they were bought, but I think it's been long enough and it was early enough in development that I'm sure Microsoft's had enough of a hand or supervisory role in that you can kind of make some conclusions off of how it's going in there in a way I don't think you can with Redfall, because Redfall really feels like it just sort of would have turned out that way anyway.
Maybe. Yeah.
You know, I don't see a world. Maybe Bethesda would have been, or ZeniMax would have been smart enough to hold off on release longer and let it cook a little more. But I think there was a ceiling to how good Redfall was. Now that we played it, I think we can say there was a ceiling to how good that game was going to be. But Starfield has got to deliver.
It does.
Starfield has got to be in the Game of the Year conversation. Like, there's no way
we already went through a
around
Halo here.
And I am
don't forget Halo Infinite.
To admit, even though I'm super hot for Starfield, I am absolutely willing to admit Starfield may not be in the Game of the Year conversation in the end.
Like, it may not. It depends on how buggy it is.
Well, exactly. But I mean, and look, someone did point out, like, it was a thread where I was like, just tell me the most useless gaming thing you know. And a lot of it was people that know weird bugs in Oblivion. And like, you do this and this character does this, or this one character, they forgot to give her AI, so she just, instead of going to bed or going to work, she just stands and watches a ham cook forever. Yeah. Things like that give the Elder Scrolls games, those Bethesda open world games, their personality. It's like, those bugs are fine. Those bugs are sort of like, oh, that's quirky and weird. It's the things where it's like, I can't play Skyrim on PS3 because I fall through the world every time I step on this rock. And I have to step on this rock to get this quest done. Like, if it's full of shit like that, like, that's a disaster.
I guess what I'm getting at is it feels like it's all too late.
I don't think so.
I mean, this generation's over, Matt.
Oh, for this, yeah. Like, nothing you can really do.
Like, Microsoft is not going to compete this generation.
Unless, I mean, the only thing you would be able to do that with is if they, I don't know, if they got like a Fortnite-style hit, which I don't see in their catalog.
It's possible.
Forward. It's possible, but I don't see it. You know, if it is,
I mean, there's only been one Fortnite so far.
But again, but you know, there was PUBG before that. There's Halo. I mean, Halo was that. I mean, it didn't like win them that generation, but it won them the next generation. And
well, it kept them alive to pursue another generation.
So I'm not saying it's too late for I mean, in terms of like, oh, they're going to shut Xbox down, or like Phil Harrison's going to get fired and everything's going to go away. I don't think Phil Harrison might get fired.
Yeah,
it's not going to. It's not going to end the Xbox division like this.
But they may have to go back to the model that PlayStation is using, where you go back to selling the games. Maybe. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm wondering. Is it proven now that this model's not going to work? Because you look, even if Starfield's great and it's Game of the Year, it's 10 out of 10 or whatever, people are going to go to Game Pass, they're going to subscribe to it, they're going to play the game for 2 months or best case scenario 3 months, and then what? And then you're waiting for Bethesda's next for Elder Scrolls like 3 years. I'm having problems starting to see. I'm starting to have problems seeing how this is sustainable.
Well, theoretically, then you'd have Hellblade 2, and then you'd have Forza, whatever we're calling it.
But they're not as big as like Bethesda's big RPGs.
They're not as big, but they are enough to keep you paying $15 a month instead of $70.
But are they enough to get more people to start paying $15 a month?
I mean,
because that's what you have to do if you're Microsoft.
My answer to that is who cares?
But Microsoft cares.
But we don't know. Like, we don't know what the numbers are and what they want. Like, that's the thing. We still don't know what Microsoft wants from Game Pass in terms of sheer volume.
Well, I mean, Pachter is kind of laid down. Like, if it really is going to be a success on the level that Microsoft needs it to be, they're going to need at least around 100 million subscribers.
Mm-hmm. And what do they have right
25.
now? Yeah, I don't really see getting to that. So if they really thought that was the target, they're crazy.
Yeah.
That was never going to happen.
I mean, it could if people really started adopting playing like Game Pass off console, playing it on their TV or on their PC or on their laptop or
coulda, woulda. I mean, that's on the level of thinking Google Stadia was a good idea.
But here's the thing: Microsoft has been signing deals with streaming partners. Mm-hmm. Like they've signed 2 huge deals in the last 2 months with big time streaming partners, basically showing their hand, saying, "Look, we need to get more people playing Xbox Game Pass off console, off PC."
Well, that's not going to work.
That's what I'm getting at, Matt. I don't think it's going to work. I think what's happening, what we're seeing now, is that this is not going to work. This plan is not going to work. They don't have enough big games to do it. And I don't think anybody is capable of it. Even if you did buy, and that's the other angle to this, Matt, the deal was just blocked to buy Activision Blizzard. Like, even with them, I struggle to see them having enough big games to make this model work.
Yeah, I don't really see where that was going to go. I mean, especially if they really did intend to have Call of Duty multi-platform still for another, 8 to 10 years.
Right.
Like, what else is left? Are you going to, hold Diablo 5 hostage now? I don't know. Blizzard doesn't put enough stuff out regularly to do that with.
Yeah, I feel like time is running out here. For this it's like a make or break point, and I don't know that they have anything that's going to make it.
Yeah. See, look, I don't know if I believe Pachter's 100 million thing. That's a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that corporate people don't have ridiculous ideas. I mean, look what's happening with the Writers Guild right now. That strike is ridiculous. The idea that they think that they can just not address that is absurd. Mm-hmm. As someone pointed out, the part of the problem there is the executive people there, they're not the ones who make things successful. The writers who wrote Mad Men and The Wire, and they're the ones who made those things pop out, or Last of Us even for HBO Max recently, or Game of Thrones. That's not that they finished that too well, but that's in they wrote those. The writers did that. If you give an executive here's your chance to make this big and revolutionize it, you get Quibi. And there's a kind of a problem there where the people in charge are kind of resentful that they're not the ones who create the value.
Yeah.
And I just don't I don't think the solution here is in the executive boardroom. The solution is making a game that people are willing to pay $70 for.
Well, I think Pachter,
and
most analysts,
that recently
are comparing Game Pass to Netflix and to Amazon Prime,
right?
Because that's the model and you need. And those businesses needed around 100 million subscribers to actually make it.
Right, but that's never going to happen in gaming.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. This isn't going to work. So, it is not going to work.
But here's the thing. I don't believe people running Microsoft, that's stupid. I don't think they have a 100 million target.
I think they do.
I don't think they do. That's ridiculous.
Look, they have deep pockets. They can keep funding Xbox until I'm way after I'm dead. That doesn't mean it's a success. Mm-hmm. That just means you're throwing good money after bad money.
I mean, it is possible they fall into that kind of infinite growth capitalism thing where it's you can't just do the thing where it's hey, this business makes us this much revenue every year. And that's
not
great.
Good enough.
But no, you have to do the infinite growth thing, which is silly.
It is silly. That's why Game Trailers doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
I saw Waypoint went under this week, and I was reading some of the stuff the people who worked there were writing. It's the same thing that happened to Game Trailers. They said they claimed Waypoint was profitable, or at least at one point it was.
At one point it was.
Game Trailers was always profitable. We had at least a 30% profit margin every year. but we only made like $3 million in profit. Into a company like Viacom, they're like, that's like 2 hours at the movie theater for one of our crappy Paramount films. Like, and they're just like, it's not worth the hassle. Bye-bye. Like, you're right. The infinite growth thing, but that is what Microsoft subscribes to. It's big business. So,
which is weird because you'd think they'd be used to like what you want isn't what happens because I mean, no matter what they do is, I mean, maybe they are that dumb. I know they're a different division, but it's like, how ridiculous is it that when you try to install a different browser on Windows 11, it's like, hey, Microsoft Edge has everything you need. You don't need Chrome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I do.
I do need Chrome.
I paid for the Office suite, but I only need the Edge. No, it's not going to happen.
That's a good pun.
It's
that's funny. I bet people didn't get
so
that
maybe
joke.
they are dumb. Maybe they are that dumb.
But even if it's 50 million,
it's still pretty unrealistic.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get there.
But the other thing is like, okay, if that's the number, what's their time frame? How long? I mean, they've always long
eternity.
Maybe
they're going to need it to get there.
I mean, I don't know what kind of dent you're going to make until something as big as Elder Scrolls comes along.
And here's what I think what happens with even Elder Scrolls or Starfield is you gain 2 or 3 million subscribers for 3 months.
I think Elder Scrolls could make a bigger dent than that. Not 100 million, but I think that's the only thing with the clout to do that. It's also the only thing with the clout to sell hardware. I mean, look, I love I'm super into Starfield, and I loved Hellblade. Would I buy an Xbox for them if I didn't already have one and didn't care about everything else on Xbox? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like if I wasn't someone who was just in for all the consoles, I always find every console to have enough worth, to justify them, even the Wii U, and like, sorta, and and I have the disposable income to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'd own a Series X this generation.
I don't know that I need it.
Yeah, I mean,
I play it every once in a while because I have Rocket League on it, but I could very easily download Rocket League for my PS5.
I mean, I play it more than the PS5, A, because there's more storage on it, and B, because things do tend to run a little better on it. But is it that much of a difference? No. Like, would I notice outside, if I played everything on PS5? Probably not. Like, I'd be fine playing everything on PS5 instead. I just don't do it because I prefer to. I don't want to keep deleting things I download.
Yeah, and I wonder too, like if Xbox does get to a place where it's hemorrhaging money, like I don't think Microsoft is just going to kill it randomly.
No,
but I do think Microsoft will be reluctant to start to keep pouring monty into Xbox and saying, "Oh, no more acquisitions."
Yeah,
like if they do manage to get the
is over.
Once they get if it goes through, which I think it still will.
What, the Activision thing?
Yeah,
yeah, it probably will.
It probably will.
But after that, I don't see what else they do in terms of acquisition. I mean,
and I don't think it's going to get them to where they need to go.
You got to start making some cookies.
Yeah.
You've spent enough time buying kitchen
utensils. Dough, and now it's time to actually make the freaking cookies. And here we are. We're 3 years into this cycle. Here we are, and we're playing Redfall and being disappointed by it.
And we're still wondering where Hellblade 2 is, and we don't really know how Starfield's going to turn out. Like, we should have known all this by now. And some of that's the pandemic, but some of it's just like...
Well, I was just giving them the benefit of the doubt because of the pandemic. I'm like, I'm not going to judge. But now we're clear of the pandemic. Like...
I'm not judging until Starfield.
But
Starfield is the big one.
I agree. That's probably a smart thing to do. But you see what PlayStation has done since we came out of the pandemic.
Oh, sure.
And then you look at what Microsoft has done, and one is a winning strategy, and one is not the winning strategy.
Right, but Microsoft has been, like, a kilometer behind the starting line already anyway. Microsoft has started so far behind this generation because of how badly they dropped the ball last generation that, the optimistic forecasts were like they're going to pull even with PlayStation 5. Obviously, that is not remotely the case.
Look, they had a great piece of hardware. They had a decent launch.
But if they'd gotten
still not good enough
fruit from those acquired developers a year ago, it would be a different situation. And I understand that things get delayed, things are hard. The pandemic pushed everything back. We're still getting, one of the reasons the release schedule this year is so good is we are getting all the stuff that was slated to come out this year and the stuff that was slated to come out last year because of delays from all that. True. So,
but you know what? Still, there's some weeks where we struggle to do GameFace.
Here and there.
Because there are just so fewer games. There's only 80 games released per year now, Matt.
Well, to be fair,
there used to be 600.
Right, to be fair, most people only need 4.
Right.
Because
the games are bigger now. And
you don't need that. Yeah. But it's starting to, things are trickling through a little better and more noticeably. Some of my more casual friends asked about Armored Core this week. I'm like, a game that doesn't come out till August?
Yeah.
A mech game? Yeah. By the Dark Souls people?
Well, that's the last part there is why they're asking you about it.
They don't like Dark Souls.
They don't like Dark Souls. Really?
No, they don't have time.
That is bizarre.
They have children, but they saw the Armored Core trailer.
Wow. That surprises me.
Me
Interesting.
too. I was very surprised. So that Armored Core is penetrating the mind share. Will it matter? I don't know. I mean, once I told them what it was, they're like, oh.
I'm good.
Okay, yeah.
Let's go to chat and see what you guys are saying about all this stuff. Hey.
I know what a metric system is.
Swan Senpai, as I said, Xbox is losing shop presence. That's going to hurt them. What do you mean by shop presence?
Shelf space.
Oh, you mean like physically? Yeah.
I think that's the British way of saying shelf space.
Well, the other thing too about it is that it's they don't want shelf space. Like they don't want to sell the hardware. They don't want to sell consoles.
They pivoted this generation to an ecosystem model, and we're kind of waiting to see if that is actually going to happen.
And third parties can't sell games on Xbox anymore. We're already starting to see some of the indies not make the Xbox version anymore.
Well, there's a whole thing going around by that. Like there was also a report of PlayStation software sales being down, and it's being directly attributed to the $10 price hike. Like, people are not buying new games on PlayStation 5 anymore.
Yeah.
Which is going to end up being a problem there, too.
The JBone29 says, they said multiple times they're looking to reach 2 billion gamers.
That was just nonsense.
Yeah, I think that's just marketing whatever.
That's exactly what you're talking about with the streaming on everything thing, which was never going to happen.
Yeah. Is Microsoft stupid? This is from Pot F2. Is Microsoft stupid? Who has the time to play a new release every single month? A lot of people.
Not too many.
Really?
Most people I know only play they play one thing over a course of several months, and then they buy the next new thing, and usually it's not even a new thing, it's just new to them.
Yeah. Redfall is the first AAA first party game since Halo. Well, obviously not AAA.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they would probably categorize it as that.
I mean, are you going to be okay with? Is it okay? Is like 1 or 2 big games a year enough for Game Pass? I don't think it is.
For a model like Game Pass, not really.
Yeah.
You gotta have something interesting on a regular basis.
Pod F2.
Because what if you don't like the current big thing? You still need secondary things to keep their attention.
Yeah. The JBone29 says all the big games this year run better on PS5, according to Digital Foundry. It's true.
Yeah, marginally.
But still better.
That's kind of new this year, though.
Yeah.
People learn the hardware, I guess.
Swan Senpai, I have a Series S, the Black Limited Edition, and it's full of dust. Yeah. I don't play my Series X all that much anymore. I just don't. Microsoft wants 1 game a quarter. They could get to that point. When do you think they're going to get to that point? We're talking 2 years, 3 years from now?
No, I mean, they might get it there this year if the releases are solid. I mean, you get Starfield out, you get Hellblade out, you get Forza out. That's 3 in the space of 2 quarters, and then you better have something for January through March, I guess.
Yeah.
You theoretically could get there. It's just things got to start coming out.
We got to start falling into place. Yeah.
But again, I don't know if it mattered which thing. I don't know why you put Redfall out in this state.
I don't either.
It doesn't matter if you push it 3. It doesn't matter if you push it 6 months.
It really doesn't.
No one fucking cared.
Because if it comes out shitty,
yeah,
it's all bad.
Everyone's talking about it now, but it's because everyone's amazed that this game came out, and we're like, wow, we sure would rather go back and play Jedi Survivor until Zelda comes out now.
Yeah. That's not the messaging you want out there.
It's you're putting out in the middle of all these heavy hitters, and I don't know if that shows you're delusional enough to think it was able to play in that same sandbox, or even Jedi Survivor is a fucking also ran to some degree, and compared to Zelda, Diablo, Street Fighter, and Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And you're putting this thing out?
Yeah.
Are you
Good
crazy?
Luck. I mean, they have nothing else. They got to put something out.
But did they?
Yeah.
Nothing might have been better.
I don't think this helped at all.
No.
Yep. So let's be honest. The console war is over. Gen 9's done. PlayStation 5 won. There's nothing Xbox could do at this point to change that.
No, that would be some kind of monkey paw thing.
The PlayStation 5 factory would have to explode.
Evil magic.
Yeah.
Like some kind of deal with Satan.
And I really thought Xbox had a chance coming into this generation.
If Phil Spencer finds a magic lamp somewhere, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's about all.
Because they had great hardware. They had expressed a commitment to games beyond Halo and Gears of War and Forza. They had bought studios, putting their money where their mouth is. They continued to buy studios. It's just too little, too late.
Yeah. I mean, you could have... they needed to get the conveyor belt rolling earlier, and it just wasn't able to happen.
And that could be Phil Spencer.
Yeah.
So, follow Nick. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Johnny Hurricane says the only thing they can do is buy WB and push out Suicide Squad exclusive to Game Pass.
Oh, boy.
Good one. So anyway, that's our check-in on the... And we'll probably never do this again because it's over. There's no reason for us to check in on this again. We'll talk about Microsoft again.
I mean, it will be...
But in relation to PlayStation and PlayStation 5, we probably won't.
In terms of the Microsoft strategy, that's going to come up again when Starfield comes out. Because I think that's really where you're going to make or break that.
Yeah, but in relation to PlayStation 5 and Sony, it's done. It's over. There's nothing to discuss between the two anymore.
PlayStation pulled away a year ago, and we didn't know details on Microsoft, but it was pretty easy to see that, like...
PS5 without selling Xbox.
And, like, PS5, for all people complain about, like, the lackluster first-party lineup or the exclusives, like, it's still outpacing the competition, isn't it?
It's outpacing everything.
Yep.
It's really insane. PlayStation could do no wrong. So they can just... This is what they're going to do with PlayStation VR 2. Whatever.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't matter that much.
Nope. When you're about to set records.
It actually makes PSVR 2 look even worse.
It does, yeah. Because they're like this shining thing on the hill, except for PSVR.
But it's like, at what point... I mean, I'm sure they recognize it now, but it's got to be... It's like, how big of a giant neon sign do you need from the consumer base that says, we don't care about VR?
Yeah.
Give it up.
Yeah. Well, they got it now. I think they figured it out this time.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. That's our latest check-in and probably our last check-in on the Generation 9 console wars. We have determined Sony and PlayStation 5 the winners. All right, our last topic for today's show is a game that I played on Game Pass. And in a lot of ways, the type of games that generally pull the cart for Game Pass. Because let's be honest, Matt, it hasn't been the big first-party, big-budget games.
No, I definitely use Game Pass more for these weird little quirky games.
Me too.
I didn't realize
I spend way more time playing these. And this game is called The Last Case of Benedict Fox. It is another...
I bet it wasn't 90 gigs to download.
It wasn't, but I will say it is the last case of Benedict Fox that I will ever play because this game is also not very good. It is a Metroidvania, so I was already playing another game in that genre this week when playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
I got another game. I got After Image, which is like it's supposed to be like this huge Metroidvania, but I didn't get a chance to play it.
See anything familiar from this opening cinematic here, Matt? Does it look like another game maybe we talked about in today's show?
It's a little Redfall-y. Also looks a little Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah, but look, this is what Redfall also did, and this is
this is pretty much the Redfall cinema. Actually, there's a little more animation.
Actually, this is better than the Redfall cinema.
There's actually depth of camera movement. Look, there's a person moving.
Yeah. So this is a 2D Metroidvania, which is what most of you are familiar with, playing in the genre versus the 3D takes on it, and 2D Metroidvanias are much more prevalent, and I tend to enjoy them a lot more than the 3D versions for whatever reason.
A 3D Metroidvania is hard to do.
The map is way easier to read in the 2D games. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it. It is also kind of Lovecraftian inspired. It's got a little bit of that vibe to it. I see that. Yep. It's set in 1925, and the world is terrified of the occult. And if you are involved with the occult, it could be your death sentence. There are 3 sort of secret organizations that are working behind the scenes.
So it's basically like living in Missouri.
Yeah, a little bit, or Florida, or Texas, or Iowa. Or...
They're trying to kill him because he played Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep, and that's kind of what this is. So you play as Benedict. He is a detective, a private investigator. And what has happened is his father has died, but no one is quite sure what happened. So he ventures to his father's mansion and tries to solve the case and try to figure out what happened to his dad. Now, his dad was dabbling in the occult. And again, this is in 1925, and it's very frowned upon. So the initial suspicion is that somebody killed him because he's involved with the occult. Someone assassinated...
Aleister Crowley style.
Yep. Yeah. And so you get to his house, and you discover his corpse is in the basement. And not only is the corpse there, the corpse becomes a gateway to this other world called Limbo. Which is basically what you think it is. It's this area where people go, but after they die, but before they go to wherever they're going to go.
You got to handle dead bodies very carefully, kids, because they can become gateways.
They could, exactly. And so at first,
that is a lot of tutorial text on the side of that screen there.
Yeah. So at first you think that basically you channel your father and he sends you into this other gameplay world called Limbo, where the world is way more interesting and they can basically do whatever the hell they want with the art and the level design because it's some fantasy world that's created. Well, when you do that, you think that the whole world's going to take place inside your dad's Limbo, but as you play through the game, you end up finding other dead bodies in the house that take you into these other dead Limbo worlds.
Persona style.
Yeah. So Benedict has a spirit that you see him right behind him right there, who is kind of like his. He does help too. So he actually helps in combat. So I guess he is kind of like a cooperative player that you play with throughout the game. But more importantly, he serves the role of the disembodied voice who narrates kind of the whole game and like clues you into what's happening and what's really happening versus what's happening in the supernatural world. And so the game kind of has this narration, kind of like Supergiant's games, where they always have the narrator who kind of like tells you what's going on behind the scenes. I actually like that aesthetic. It doesn't work quite as well here, unfortunately, because the writing isn't quite up to scratch. But he does fill a valuable role in that he provides context and tells you what's going on. Because the game is kind of confusing when you first start playing it, I'll be honest with you. Because the action in the game kind of sucks. It's this weird combat where it's like hack and slash, but you have a gun. But the only way you get bullets for your gun is to land the hack and slash attacks. So
just like Jedi Survivor.
A little bit, yeah, actually.
You get your blaster bolts back by hitting people with
You're
the saber.
right, yeah, that's true, actually. And in this one, what I found myself...
And it's annoying in that.
It is annoying, and it's annoying AF in this too, man. Because you get into the heat of combat, and you pull out your gun, and you go snick, 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 and you're like, I have no bullets, now I'm dead. You die very easy in this game. You take just a couple hits, and you die. And the other thing about the combat in this game is that when you go into the limbo world, that's where the combat is. The mansion that you're seeing right now is like the hub world. So this is where you find all the dead bodies. It sends you off into all the different limbo worlds. This is where you come back after you've collected stuff and try to use it to solve the game's puzzles. And most of the game's puzzles are... They're like the boring puzzles. They're not like environmental puzzles. They're all like self-contained. Like, here's this lock. Figure out the code. Break it. Here's this math equation. Figure out the answer to it. Solve the puzzle. They're like, it's the kind of puzzle solving that I personally do not enjoy all that much, but I do realize that other people may prefer that compared to the environmental type of puzzles. And basically, that's the whole game. You use the dead bodies to go into limbo, to find clues that you bring back to the mansion to try to help solve the mystery of your father's murder. What else is there? There's not a lot, honestly. You can upgrade Benedict's abilities and his equipment. You can upgrade his health potions. He eventually gets smoke grenades that helps him like get away from enemies. There are also everyday household items like flashlights and things like that. And basically how it works is every time you kill an enemy in Limbo, you earn ink. And then you use that ink to give Benedict tattoos, and then the tattoos are what give him like his extra special abilities or his increased abilities from his defaults.
I'm vaguely remembering more and more of the trailers for this.
Yeah.
Like the various Xbox.
It looked good in the trailers.
Shotgun presentations.
Yeah, but it's another one of those games that looks good in a trailer, but then ultimately the execution kind of fails a little bit. Also, eventually, as you get further into this game, there's a little bit of a Resident Evil Mr. X element to it in that you have like an enemy that chases you around at all times. Again, that's another thing where your mileage may vary with these types of games. Do you like that in games generally?
I find that annoying.
It's kind of cool at first, but I agree. After a while, it starts to get annoying. And I'm just like, I just want to play this game. Like, can this guy stop stalking me around the world environment? And eventually you get to a point with this game as well. As I said, the combat's pretty simple. Like, there's very simple combos. It's basically your generic hack and slash 101. There's also platforming, as you're seeing. And then the third big pillar is searching for items that unlock the barred doors back in the mansion. And then, like all Metroidvanias, a big part of your time is spent looking at the map. Okay, that door is locked. What does that door need in order for it to become unlocked? Okay, do I need to solve a puzzle? Do I need to find an item? It's the typical mental gymnastics that you go through playing a Metroidvania that are also prevalent in this. What really gives this a different flavor from other Metroidvanias is the puzzles and the detective stuff, the puzzle solving and the detective work. It's what gives it its own flavor compared to other games in the genre, but the moment-to-moment stuff that you're doing is pretty much what you'd expect from the subgenre. It's a lot of, like, checking the map. Am I going the right way? Oh, here's the way to a door that isn't unlocked. I need to go check out that door to try to figure out what there is there that they need. And then you find it, and you're like, okay, do I remember seeing that before? No. Well, then I need to journey around. It's the same stuff that you've dealt with in every Metroidvania, despite the fact that it does kind of have a unique angle as far as its story and setting. I did experience a couple crash bugs playing the game. The game also stutters at times, and you can see it's just 2D, very simple geometry. They probably need a better engine than the one that they're using, but it gets them through the game. But still, there definitely are issues at times with the frame rate dipping. And then, to me, I think ultimately what I came down on this game was that it's just a lot more trial and error than fun. The detective stuff, it was very rare where I just thought of a puzzle solution and it worked. More often, it was just the same thing. And a lot of the games like this, where you just keep trying, like, okay, I have these 5 things in my inventory, and I have this object that obviously needs something. I'm going to try all 5 of these things and see which one of them works. The logic doesn't always apply there. You're like, oh, hey, here's a record player. Oh, I have a piece of vinyl. Let me put the vinyl. Oh, nope, that doesn't work. It just plays a record. It doesn't actually solve the puzzle. So it's pretty much what you'd expect from most games like this, honestly. I'll say this, there is a ton of accessibility options in this, which is a kind of a cool thing. In fact, Mitch, who used to work with us here on GameFace, he's now doing this at PlayStation. I would argue that is one of the best things you could do in development right now. Mm-hmm. If you become known as somebody who's really good at accessibility, you're going to have endless job offers. Because it's every studio now has that guy or that girl who it's their sole job to make sure that their game is accessible. Whoever does that for this studio, really good. They did a great job. Pretty much anybody can play this game. Also, their difficulty settings are great. A lot of the stuff that I've complained about, I could remedy it on my own by just playing like the story difficulty where basically all the puzzles are solved and you just go through the plot. I like that games are doing this now, where they're giving people the opportunity to play them the way that they want to play them, and they aren't gatekeeping like we've talked about with From Software games in the past. Mm-hmm. So it's good to see that shift even in this game. And then like later on, like you do get new abilities, like eventually you get a double jump, but the double jump in this uses like almost like a grapple mechanic. And if there's nothing to grapple to, you can't double jump.
Huh.
That's insane, Matt. Again, going back to what I was talking about with Jedi Survivor, how there's certain ways that you design games to teach people how to use them, and you give them abilities in a sequence that makes sense as they've learned from their prior. This game fails at a lot of that stuff, unfortunately. And it's worse at it than Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor, I just found a couple isolated cases that kind of bothered me. I don't know. To me, it's pretty accurate. This is probably the last case of Benedict Fox. I do not see this game getting a sequel. It starts really slow. It does get better
You really kind of set yourself up for that with that title.
It's they sure did. It starts out really slow, and it's hard to get into. You do a lot of going back and forth from Limbo back to the mansion at first, and you're like, what's the flow? What am I going to be doing in this game? It never kind of falls into a pattern, which I guess maybe some people might like. So maybe that's something positive ultimately that comes out of it. But I did not enjoy my time with this, and at the same time, as I said, these are kind of the kind of games that are floating the boat for Game Pass at this point. But to me, this is not one of the stronger releases, and I was excited for this game. Like, to your point, talking about the trailers that came out for this, they were impressive. Like, I watched them, and I was like, oh, this game looks awesome. Like, this might actually be another, like, Game Pass sleeper hit. Now that I played it, no, it's definitely not. So, Game Pass also does not need more games like this, Matt. Like, I think really, like, either you're going to have, like, a crazy indie, like Hades. Like, that's maybe a type of game that if you got that exclusively for Game Pass, it might actually move the needle. Mm-hmm. Like, some indie sensation might do it and help. But more likely than not, you're going to need the big budget games to hit to move the needle. This game definitely is not going to do it. So you can buy the game if you want to on Steam. I think it's like $30 or whatever. Like, it's $25. I'd play this for like 15 or 20 max. Unless you're just really desperate for a Metroidvania, but I don't think that really happens anymore, Matt, because there's so many being made.
Yeah, there was a time when they just didn't exist at all, but now they're one of the most common indie genres.
Yeah, so that's
which I like. I don't mind that, but it's like we've definitely hit a point where like you got to pick and choose and be sure you're getting one that not necessarily is good or bad, but like make sure you've got one that does it the way you like the Metroidvania done.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem really what I'd be after.
No, it's just it's slow. I guess is the best way to put it. So we're talking about Jedi Survivor and how you finish an objective. You're like, now what? Like that's like
Survivor's
five-fold in this.
9 Years of Shadows is more. I mean, it's much faster. It doesn't involve levels and like a lot of upgrades, but it's like go. It's like
I liked Romancevania more than this.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to try.
You remember that one?
I want to try After Image, which just came out,
Yeah.
which is supposed to be like a big epic one, but it's also 2D and like has really nice art.
There's so many to choose from. There's no point in playing.
Maybe
something
one
like
day, Silk Song will come out. We don't know. Maybe.
I'm really starting to wonder if it ever will come out. So anyway, there you go.
People were thinking that was going to be in the Nintendo presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, poor fools.
Well, we realized we didn't even mention that.
No, of course not. Everyone's like, why didn't they mention Silk Song? Silk Song's going to be there. I'm like,
nope.
Children. My sweet summer child.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the last case of Benedict Fox. It's available for PC and Xbox. I say maybe give it a go if you like that genre on Game Pass because you're already paying for it. Definitely do not pay the $25 for it if you don't have Game Pass. All right. And with that, it is time for... All right, folks, it's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the game before this guy does, Matt Kyle. And he's good at it, so you better be on it.
Not lately.
Yeah, not lately. But you won, 2 or 3 weeks in a row there?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing fine this year. I think you're doing great. You're playing against hundreds of people, Matt. Like, the chances of you winning should be like 0. So anyway, a couple things before we get going. If you've won this year, do not play. You can only win once per year. When I say do not play, that means do not put guesses in. Just do not participate. Kick your feet up and relax. Also, if you have no interest in playing a PC game or you don't foresee yourself giving away a PC game to a friend, also don't play because the reward for winning this is a game, but it is a PC game. We have Steam codes. So if you can't play PC games and you don't see yourself giving away the code to somebody else, then please don't play. And again, as I said, please do not put any guesses into chat or anything because it could ruin the game for everybody else. Now, one last thing before we get going. Our chat is put into slow mode. That means you can only send a response once every 60 seconds. So don't start just typing random game names in hoping you get it right because you're going to end up seeing a screenshot. You're like, oh, I know that game. And you're going to try to type it in, and it's going to not let you type it in. So make your guesses count. And with that, I think we're ready to get going. I'm just going to project here. I think this will make it to the 3rd screenshot. We'll see. I'm always wrong. You guys always get it. I thought last week we'd at least make it to the 2nd one. You guys got it on the 1st one in like 5 seconds. So anyway, here we go. We're ready to go with Name That Game. And here is the 1st screenshot. If anybody gets it from this, I'm going to lose my shit. Cubert, no. Commander Keen 4, nope. Goodbye Galaxy. Fallen Order, no. AJ, though, he thought I was like,
clever.
That would be clever. Lost Planet, no. I can see why you would think that because of the snow. Dishonored, no. Sword of Sodan, no. Twin Snakes, no. God of War 3, no. Mass Effect 1, no. Sekiro, no. Baby Shark.
Skyrim.
Zed Saber says Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. No.
That's a very different part of the island.
What did you just guess, Matt?
Skyrim.
No. That's a good guess, too, though. Death Stranded, no. Battlefield 1, no. Heavy Rain, no. Resident Evil 8, no. Mass Effect Andromeda, no. Unreal Tournament, no. Lost Planet 3, no. Mass Effect 1, no. Free Willy. No. Okay, I think you guys got all your first guesses in. Here comes the 2nd image. Name that game. There's a chance you could get it with this one. Wolfenstein, no. Mike's Q. The one with the moon mission.
Silent Hill Shattered Memories.
No. Good guess, though.
Ice.
Last of Us, no. God of War, no. Willy Beamish, no. Metro Last Light, no. Metro, no. Ding, 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 we have a winner.
One of the Metros.
Salty 69, yep. We have a winner. I should have said that before we started. With the applause, fan. I should also have mentioned before we started that you have to get the exact entry of a franchise correct. So someone said Metro, that's incorrect. It's Metro 2033. Someone said Metro Last Light, that's also incorrect. It's Metro 2033. Stolty69, congratulations on winning. I didn't even make it to the 3rd one, but this would have been the 3rd one. This would have been the 4th one. And then this would have been the 5th one that definitely would have given it away. I showed you a whole enemy for this one. Because I realized that Metro 2033 isn't exactly a blockbuster. But I really thought kind of going off the reservation, Matt, and picking a game that wasn't very popular, I really thought that like it would get to at least the 3rd one, but nope. You guys are just too damn good. So Stolte69, congratulations. Send us a DM here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on Twitter at Dinfire. You can send Sifted a DM on Twitter at Sifted Games. And again, don't forget to follow him. And then you can send me a DM on Sifted. I am at Shane there. Let's see, before we get going, a couple things. If you're listening to this show on any of the podcast services or you're watching the show on YouTube, please head to patreon.com/sifted. I think we just hit our lowest number of patrons ever today when the month turned over. We need help, like big time. So if you're someone who's been watching the show or listening to the show for free all this time and you've been kind of waiting maybe for that moment where you want to jump and actually support us financially, now would be a really, really good time. So I'm just asking you guys if you could help us out. We really need it. So we'd really appreciate that. Again, go to patreon.com/sifted. That's SIFTD without the E. And we really need the help. So we'd really appreciate it. Even with the great help that we're getting from our awesome sponsor, LS Cream. Unfortunately, our Patreon just keeps going down. And we're in trouble. So if you guys can help us out, that'd be great. Again, a big thanks to LS Cream. Go to creamls.com. They are supporting us. Please buy the liqueur, because when our sponsors get positive results, they keep coming back and keep sponsoring us. And I'm just telling you right now, we need the sponsorship. So please, if you don't want to give us money and you'd rather spend your money on alcohol, then at least go and buy some LS Cream and help our sponsor so that they keep sponsoring us. Anything that you can do to help. Sharing the show. We keep getting all these messages on YouTube. This channel deserves more subs. This show deserves more views. But the only way that's going to happen is if you share it. If you don't want to spend money on it and you want to watch the show for free, that's cool. Watch the ads or whatever. That's cool. I hope you're watching it with the ad blocker turned off. You're probably not. But I can hope. But there's other things that you can do. You can review the show on the podcast services. That helps a ton, because a lot of our reviews are from 5 years ago. And those don't help. We need steady reviews coming into the podcast services. So if you just want to review it on the podcast service, that's great. But sharing it, if you have followers on social media, tell them this is the best gaming podcast. You should be watching this. We got a comment yesterday this is the only gaming podcast I listen to all week now. Yeah, that's by design. We design the show and everything we do at Sifted so that you don't have to go somewhere else. You can, if you hate Matt and I, sure. Go somewhere else. If you don't agree with us, I totally get that. But as far as knowing everything that is happening in the games industry, you don't need anything but Sifted. It is by design. That's why we do Dossier every month. We tell you the games that are coming out. We make sure that you're covered every angle. So you don't need to go somewhere else, but you can if you want to. That's the whole idea behind what we're doing on Sifted. We're very, very picky about new content we put out there. It all has to serve that purpose. So anyway, I wouldn't be standing up here on the soapbox if it wasn't May 2nd and our Patreon didn't just turn over and it just took a huge dump. This always is the hard part of doing this, is the first of the month is just depression. Being honest, it's depressing to wake up on the 2nd of every month and just see that. And it happened, this was the biggest drop we've had in months. So, and I don't know why. There's never any rhyme or reason to it.
Everybody got to save as much money as they can for all the games coming out.
Maybe. And look, I totally get that. Look, I'm not demanding that you give us your money. I'm just saying if you're getting entertainment out of this, maybe it's worth plucking down a couple bucks for. We'd really appreciate it. So, again, if you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast services, this is my call to action to you. This is me asking you for help. So head to patreon.com/sifted, or you can always just do Twitch Prime, which is free. YouTube folks, do it, man. Help us. We need help. I'm asking you for help. And you can give us money for free. I don't know what else I can do here. What else can I do? What can I do, Matt?
OnlyFans.
That's it. Send out dick pics or something. I don't know. So anyway, just letting you guys know we're in bad shape, man. I'm not making it up. You can go to patreon.com/sifted and look for yourself. Look at the money there and ask yourself, how are you still getting a 3-hour show every week? So big thanks to everybody who is supporting us. Our patrons are amazing. You guys have stuck with us through thick and thin. And without you guys, we wouldn't be here right now. And without Matt, we wouldn't be here right now. But we need other people to help. We can't keep relying on the same people to keep helping GameFace and Sifted. We need you guys to get off the sidelines, get off the bench, and get in the game. So we would really appreciate that if you could do it. Now, one last thing before I go. Don't forget, We don't know when GameFace is happening next week because I have a surgery, I have a procedure. We'll see how it goes. There is a chance we might do the show on Monday. Again, make sure you follow Sifted at Sifted Games on Twitter, and that's where we post all the updates as far as what's going on. I see lots of questions in Q&A. I'm sorry, we're already way over time. We can't answer any questions today. Cody S. Carter liked my shirt. I'll share that one. OG Galaga, one of my favorite arcade games of all time. So, repping it today. Anyway, hope you guys have had a great week. I hope you guys have an amazing week coming up. There are so many great games to play. It really does kind of hurt my soul a little bit, Matt, that I may or may not be able to discuss Zelda.
Well, we'll get to it.
We will, but I mean in like a timely manner.
We're still better than the others.
Yeah. So anyway,
all the other podcasts are going to be like, oh my God, Zelda.
You're not going to get a lot of critical discussion.
This is the only podcast where you're not going to have the fucking 6-month moratorium on criticizing the Zelda game. I promise you, if there's some weird shit in there, we're going to talk about it.
That's a good point, because a lot of the other guys, 6 months later, they're like, wait a minute, that actually isn't that good.
Yeah.
And we just say it right from the beginning, which may be why we have a trouble getting traction, because we're not fanboys. Let's be honest, Matt.
I mean,
I think a big problem for us is that we're not fanboys, and we don't root for one console.
I've definitely seen people that are just like, I don't like it because I don't want to hear criticism of the game I like. I want to hear people talk about how great it is, which is what a lot of the other video game podcasts are. It's just fanboying out about stuff.
Yeah. And we're never going to do that. That's not who we are. So I can understand it if you don't like that. Then you may not want to subscribe. I understand it. But I think as you get older, you'll start to appreciate content like this instead of the fluff. At least I would hope so. So anyway, thanks to everybody. Thanks for everyone who's wishing me luck on in the chat for my procedure. I think I'm going to be okay. It's a pretty safe procedure. There is some risk still, but I should be all right. It's just a matter of how much pain I'm going to be in and how much time it takes to recover. One thing is for sure, I'll have plenty of time to sit on the couch and play Zelda. So anyway, that's it for GameFace 341. Much love to you guys, and I know everybody says this, love this. I mean it. You guys, the real G's of Sifted, I know you guys. You guys have come to LA and we've had beers. This isn't some faceless thing like it was on Game Trailers for me, where there was just too many of you that I never got to know you guys. I know you, and you're awesome people, and I appreciate you, and I love you. So you guys have a great week. Get hyped for Zelda, man. It's coming. Whether it's great or not, I'm excited to play it. So it's not too far away. We'll see you hopefully in the next week. GameFace is up and out.